Why do thousands of listeners across the US tune into Michael Jeverdon and Matthew Perry every week? Let's find out. These two started with a single live video, one that skeptics dismissed as a one-off. But guess what? That video sparked Morgan County's #1 show, The Conspiracy Realist. From being written off as just another pair of conspiracy nuts, they've flipped the script by bringing you fact-checked real information about the wildest theories out there. Their journey from underdogs to trusted voices isn't just inspiring, it's proof that truth seekers everywhere are hungry for credible insights. With high ratings across Eastern Kentucky and a growing national audience, Michael and Matthew are the dynamic duo you didn't know you needed. So, if you're on the hunt for real talk and real information, tune in and join the ride. Michael Jeverdon and Matthew Perry, unraveling the truth, one conspiracy at a time.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another fun evening of talking about anything we can. As you can tell, for like the gazillionth time, we are indoors. This time we're indoors dressed as if we're in Alaska. We both sat here a minute ago shivering, and I looked one time, Matthew was sitting over there like this, all covered up. So, I mean, ain't much we can do. Gonna quit raining. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to an exciting show. There's a lot of events, both locally and globally, that we can bring to the discussion board. Hopefully, we can get some viewers to call in tonight and ask questions, and hopefully, we can do our best to answer those questions and get a better idea of what's going on.
Yeah, and as you heard Matthew say, the phone is laying here on the table here momentarily. We will be, putting the number up, as requested. You guys request, so, we're going to go ahead and go through with it. You guys want to talk locally? Let's talk locally. I've asked people to send in some information and different things about some things they'd like to talk about. Of course, the big one that, most people ask me about is, the middle school. So, we'll go into that very shortly. Got a couple other little things wrote down here. But, if you're watching right now and you want to hear something talked about locally, right now is the opportunity to listen to it. I mean, I know a lot of times on this program, we will talk a little bit about it. But, we're giving you guys, the momentum tonight to talk. I'm going to go ahead and put the phone number up here. The same rules as always applies with the phone number. If you want to call and give us your name and then ask your question or something about something locally, you can. If you would like to call and stay anonymous, you could call the number and say, hey, I just don't want to say who I am, but here's my question. Or what do you guys think about this? So you don't have to tell us who you are. Also, if you would prefer, not to call, and we would prefer you did call because it just makes it more interesting. But, you can also put things in the comments. You can put questions in the comments here. We'll talk about it. But, we definitely like it when people talk about, call in and stuff. So we got the phone here. Yeah, that's what I'd say too. She's always in a mood. Obviously it's your fault. Matthew's here. Matthew's ate dinner with us this evening, ate supper with us. People's here eating supper now. Obviously it's not outside, so it's not steaks. But one of these days we'll get to that one of these days. But hello, Wanda. I see Wanda watching. Wanda was asking yesterday about something, so I'll go ahead and mention that too. real quick. I'll put the phone over here. But like I said, the phone number's up, guys. If you want to call with your local questions, we're going to talk locally, but throwing everything on the floor. But good catch. Talked about it last week, but here's Cash's Diner. I was went and checked it out yesterday. Noticed Wanda saw me. That I was there yesterday. I'm going to go check it out. Here's the menu. Cash's Diner. Let me pull it up here too real fast for you. Right here. Formerly Spanx Frank's there in Campton, Cash's Diner. There's the phone number. It's right on 191 before you get to the nursing home there in Campton. It's right next door in the same parking area as the Haddock's auction. It's very easy to find. 1008 Kentucky Highway 191, Campton, Kentucky. They've got burgers, hot dogs, pop water, country boy nachos, fish special Friday, which is what I had yesterday. That was amazing. Let's see what else they got here. Cheeseburger, double cheeseburger, BLT, chili dog box, bacon cheeseburger, double cheeseburger, double bacon cheeseburger, tenderloin box. Sounds amazing. That might be my next. But try one of her combos. Like I said, I had the Fish Friday special yesterday, which was really, really amazing. You can go over to their Facebook page, and like I said, I'll be posting this. I'll post this on the page, that way you can see and be able to get out there. But Cash's Diner there in Campton, make sure to check them out. I know that's not Morgan County local, but that's still only a few minutes away, so that's local. And he's a big supporter of us, Chefton Cash. So I want to give him a shout out. But something that is local to their local area. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. West Liberty IGA is now hiring clerks and a cake decorator in the deli and the bakery area. So stop by the store, fill out an application. If you're interested, anybody looking for a job, know somebody looking for a job. If you've got a job and you're looking for a little side hustle or something other, and you can make cakes, or you just want to run a cash register or something, go in and talk to Jonathan. That'll push you right in there. That'll get you right where you need to be. West Liberty's looking for whatever. If you're looking for some weed eating jobs,
No, do not call me.
don't call the number on the screen, but call Matthew.
No, do not call me.
Because of his weed eating and mowing abilities, that's the only reason him not being asked why he didn't wear his shirt tonight. But I was told the story that he had to go mow and weed eat in Pot County today, so he's forgiven, and he came straight here. So, he's been forgiven, but I ain't seeing no questions coming through. And let me make sure the phone's ringing. All right. Phone's working, guys, so I'll lay it right here. Let's get those calls coming in. If you want to call in with these local questions, or if not, put it in the comments. One of the very first questions that I got over the weekend, this was last weekend, right after we had mentioned last Friday, on the show last Friday, I got this question over the weekend and said, what are the plans for all the local buildings that are sitting vacant right now? So, let's, we'll try to think of some of them. We've got the old IGA building. That's between IGA and the Family Dollar. We've got the Ford dealership now, the most recent. We've got the old Chevrolet dealership, which is next to Hardee's. We have the Rite Aid building in town, right there next to the church and the red light.
There's one on Main Street that's...
There's one on Main, yeah.
One or two.
So, that's, someone had, that was the question that was asked, what are the, are there any plans, or anybody heard of any plans that's going on with any of these vacant buildings? Of course, we've heard a couple different stories. I've actually heard they maybe putting a restaurant or something in the Ford dealership, but I don't, that's not anything confirmed. I've not seen that on any newspapers or anything locally like that. No updates from the judge's office. So I can't really say for sure. I know at one time the Mexican restaurant had, our local Mexican restaurant had looked into the old Rite Aid building, but I think they wanted well over $1 million for that. It's crazy money that they was wanting to that. I mean, it would be a bigger area for them, but the old IGA building recently had a lease, like a for lease sign or whatever, hanging on the door. But I don't, I don't know. And then that poor old Chevrolet lot up there, it seems like it's just sitting there. I don't know. You hear different things. You hear Chinese restaurants are coming. Of course, now, the old Subway. We got the Subway building sitting next to IGA there that was most recently the Country Corner, or what was it called? Farmers Market or Farmers Table. And, we.
Cougar Den.
Yeah, the Cougar Den. I mean, well, to me, I always say the old Subway building. A lot of people look at me and say, well, the old Subway building sits over in town next to the eye doctor and Peyton's Pharmacy, which I guess that is considered the old Subway. And, but I don't see nothing coming in about buildings, so I guess you guys don't care about buildings.
But you would think with the ability to now sell alcoholic beverages,
that's another thing, right?
That it would generate some
I think
some public interest in possibly putting a pretty nice food chain somewhere in this community. Whether it be a steakhouse.
The problem is, Matthew, is that you are talking about a small community, and the price that they're wanting for those buildings is a lot of overhead for a business to start out with, in debt, and concern about the amount of sales they're going to have. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I can understand it totally.
Right, building $1.5 million, you better have a business that's going to generate something quick to pay the interest and stuff that you're going to have to pay on a loan for a $1.5 million building. And that's not, you're going to have to do some work to put in, like a restaurant. You would have to do, like, even the Ford building. There's no kitchen and stuff in there. I can't imagine.
Betty Stacy said she wished a Chinese restaurant would come. And Melina just said her ex-brother-in-law is supposed to be buying the old Chevrolet lot. I mean, Melina, do you know if that's going to be turned into a garage? Is he, what's he going to open up a club and play music in there? I mean, what's he got? David and I ain't ignoring you, David. I've got a list about this big when it comes to the middle school talk. So I'm actually headed there very shortly. I was going to do this building stuff, and then since Melina's going to open a liquor store. I didn't expect anything less. But while David put it in here in the comments, just before I get to it, he says, if the middle school does close, the board office should move there and sell the current board office, which, used to be the Morehead State University. Small community with very high prices for property. Absolutely. That's exactly right. And, while we're on that same topic, Deborah, hit a little bit on it here. I talked about this briefly a couple weeks ago, so I wanted to hit this real fast before we went on over to the middle school situation. A few weeks ago, I brought it up about if you were planning to move to Morgan County or currently have moved to Morgan County and you are looking to start a business here in Morgan County. Just my feeling upon the matter. I mean, everybody may have their own opinion. Some people I know are going to agree, but I would probably rethink that, in the long run, because the only thing you're going to do is spend more money and set yourself up for a failed business in Morgan County. The people in the area will not shop local. There's very, very few, maybe a handful of people that'll shop local. They would prefer to drive right past you and drive to Lexington or Morehead or whatever, and they will go there and buy the exact same item you've got because they can buy it maybe for $1 or $2 cheaper than what they could at a local business. Because one of the things, sort of even like what David mentioned there, but I mean, small businesses have to make money. That's how you make money. So I mean, if you're selling this hoodie that Matthew's got on, and it's for sale in Lexington for $21, but you have to spend $25 on it at a small business, people don't want to do that, or $23. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, you'll drive and spend $25 on the gas to go get it, and then you're going to eat out at a Chinese restaurant or something that that we don't have. So I mean, you're going to spend a lot more money, and people just won't. People just will not shop local. I mean, they just won't. I mean, and it's not just because I've spent 3 years dealing with local businesses and stuff here. I mean, Shefton Cash with Cash's Diners having the same issue in Campton. A lot of our local businesses here in town are having the same issues. So
Well,
I
we've
mean,
had a lot of businesses closed. You have the Ford Place closed, the Cougar Den closed, Subway is closed too in that amount of year too. So Subway and the Cougar Den both probably in the last 5 years. They were both in there around COVID.
Melina says her ex-brother-in-law's a main mechanic for Ford right now. So maybe putting a garage in there, which that's what that's what I think is mainly set up to do anyway. So I mean, that would be awesome. But I don't know. I just the small business thing. It's just like today. I had to take Aiden today to get him fitted and stuff for prom outfit, tux and stuff. I could have went to Lexington, could have went to Moorhead, Mount Sterling. I went to the Paisley Posey in West Liberty. Local business, you know what I'm saying? Support local businesses. If I could get it here, I'll get it here. Now, why would you drive long ways off for? David says he tries to spend local when he can, and David does. David's one of those that I would say, in the handful, I've seen him in her store a bunch. Well, Deb's store, but I say Eric because, she's not on screen. But she won't come on screen anymore. She retired from being on screen for some reason. She's always
I
been.
think that we just don't take into consideration. Sometimes it's easy because, and the problem I hear a lot of people say is that people in the community doesn't offer it. We don't have stores that offer certain things. I promise you, I have allergies. Ask Michael. I cannot shop everything local because I have to go elsewhere to get like plant-based cheese. You cannot find it in Morgan County. But I try to do all my shopping that I can outside of that. But I think sometimes we get into a habit that, and I've been as guilty as the next person. You go one place. You go to Moorhead. You get it all done in the same place. Or you shop right there in the one shopping center, so it's convenient and stuff. But I hear people talk about all the time how we need this in Morgan County, how we need this in West Liberty. Businesses and people cannot invest in a community unless a community is willing to.
We've heard Walmart. We've heard Walmart since we were little kids. We need a Walmart. You can't bring a Walmart to a place like this. I mean, you just can't. And I always hear it's because we've got a Walmart in Moorhead, and there's a Walmart in Paintsville, and then a little one in Jackson. But you've also got one in Moorhead, Mount Sterling, Winchester, right down the line, So, I mean, we can have a Walmart here, but why would you bring a Walmart here? Because you don't even shop here now. So why would you bring something? I mean, obviously, they probably would flock to Walmart then. But it's like Sovereignty or something like that won the Derby. We tried to stream the Derby here. We couldn't ever get the stream. But I don't know.
I think I don't know, David.
Speaking of utilities, I've got utilities on here too. I hear a lot of people complaining recently about utility bills, mainly county, David. So I mean, anybody wants to say anything about it? That's what I'm saying. We're here. We're here to talk. This is local. You all like local. You want to hear local, so let's talk local. Anybody having any issues with your phone bills or your electric bills, your water bills, your gas bills? Sorry, David. Anything like that. I don't know. The phones are here. Let me put the number back up. Call in anonymous. Call in and tell us your.
I do think that
whoever and just ask a question.
Everything's just higher, and so people they cannot stretch their dollar any more than it will stretch, and it gets very frustrating and stuff when you get expensive utility bills, things you weren't planning for and stuff like that. My beef with everything is that I don't understand why we're taxed on every level. Like our income is taxed, and then we turn around and we buy utilities and we get taxes that we have to pay on that as well, right?
Right now.
So don't tax our income
if you're going to. Did you hear what I said?
I heard you, Matthew.
Right
I'm hoping. I'm still hanging on by that thread. Just hoping.
Well, that's the whole gist and idea of the tariffs. tariffs are to alleviate the burden of taxation on anybody that
Which is
makes
how we
less
used to
than
run anyway, right? Before
anybody
federally
that
cut
makes
tax.
less than $200,000.
Well,
You're right. Taxation is, in a large part, unfair to Americans.
for working Americans.
And the reason being is, prior to 1913 and the establishment of the Federal Reserve, tariffs basically paid the burden of America. America was still thriving. We were still economically, our infrastructure was growing. People were living pretty comfortably. Prices were low. But in 1913, with the institution of the Federal Reserve, and all of a sudden you get taxation somewhat in society on just about everything. From, like you said, you work 2 weeks, you get taxed. All right, then you go to the store, you got to pay tax. You've got a gasoline tax. You've got property tax. You've got
income. So why are we paying taxes on the stuff we buy with what little bit of income we have left?
Well, it's what makes it extremely hard for anybody that is struggling to get ahead to make it. You talked about, you guys have been talking a lot, in large part, about small businesses. Small businesses have a lot of overhead.
What?
And as a result of that, it's extremely hard. 99% of people in society would love to open a business, but as an entrepreneur, you take that risk, and the risk is the potential failure that goes into it, because you've got to insightfully do things to encourage people to come into your business, and you can go out of your way, and that still doesn't mean from month to month that you're going to be able to pay your electric bill.
But
you're talking about
this too, Matthew. Think about COVID, for example. If a small business, look what a small business had to deal with during COVID. They shut a lot of small businesses down, or let's say restaurants, for example. If you're a mom and pop restaurant and you can only operate at 25% capacity,
and you can only operate with drive-through or curbside service, you're struggling. You're
talking about a small business needs 100% of their sales to thrive, because we're already getting less sales than big box stores and stuff. And when you throw that in, and my problem with that is that Walmart was being allowed 25 people in at a time. I never had 25 people in my business at one time. I might have had.
Well, most of the businesses in America that stayed open were corporations. Like you take Walmart, you take Lowe's, you take Target. Those businesses were not hit, whereas locally owned businesses, mom and pop shops that thrive on local community members coming into those businesses and shopping. And, by word of mouth, people hear about those businesses, and all of a sudden, their revenue starts to be generated monthly to where they can get a little bit of overhead and make some money. But when you're cutting back access to certain facilities, you're creating problems.
All right, Deborah. You keep on with trying to get us off of local talk. I'm gonna have to put you on the porch.
But you talk about taxes. I'm gonna give you an example. You talked about electric bill. Okay. As you well know, my mom passed away.
Right.
Okay. She lived in a house, and what we've done is we basically turned off all the utilities there, bare minimum. Get the electric bill there this week or this month.
She ain't been there, but
she's not been there.
How much was it?
It was more than my electric bill at my house, and
why was her electric bill so
That's a good question. My wife asked the same thing. And I'm not pointing a finger at anybody. I'm not blaming anybody.
Estimated?
But I'm sitting here going, there's no way that electric bill should be higher than my electric bill at my house, considering we've turned pretty much everything off but bare
makes
necessity.
a lot of sense, don't it?
And I'm
what would be
it's a good question.
Is the air or heat on?
We basically have turned the water off, but we did have the she has electric heat, and it was on, but it only got cold 1 or 2 nights, so it wasn't like
you probably have the thermostat
turned down.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, but I'm not blaming anybody. Like I said, I just
I want to know about it.
Seriously, at this point, there's nothing on there.
But
You know,
if you go talk to the people, they're going to simply tell you, it is what it is, and you got to pay that bill, and you got to go on, And like I said, but I've heard in the past where people, uh, come home and they're, get their monthly electric bill and it be $400 some dollars, and they can't understand it. It just varies from month to month. It should be consistent, you would
Right.
think, if you're there living, and it should be somewhat lower if you're not living there.
I agree with that.
But, public utilities are a thing you have to have. You're relying on it unless you live in a remote area and you rely solely on sunlight.
There's no
and-
competition.
You're right.
It's you stuck with what you have. But I mean, that's what I'd say too about like your small business, local business stuff too. During COVID, their sales were less, but their utilities and their bills were still the same. That's right. So your overhead's still the same, and the problem is that if you don't invest in those businesses, my thing, and Michael can attest to this, that we get a hit for a lot of donations. And I'm going to tell you straight up, as a small business, we would love to donate to everyone, but you can only donate based on what your sales are and stuff like that. And if you aren't making,
You want to tell them how that is right now?
it's bad.
'Cause I could tell them if you like. I mean,
No,
I won't give you the numbers,
we
the monthly
rotated
numbers,
stuff.
but
I will
I
tell
mean,
you, we've rotated
pretty
stuff,
bad. But
what we're selling and stuff, trying to find things, because here's the deal: we live in an online world, and it's hard to compete with online.
we had a guy yesterday. Wait, hang on. Where are we at here? Saturday. Had a guy on Saturday talking about a bill, and he said that he got, I don't remember how much it was, $800 maybe, something like, was it a water bill?
It was
maybe?
gas.
Gas. Water bill?
It was gas.
And he said when he went in to talk to him, they told him that they had a new guy started working, and the new guy came out and didn't know how to read the meter and just wrote down numbers, and they gave him an $800 bill. And it's like, we need to be writing some different numbers down is what it needs to be doing. But you talked there a second ago though about 200,000. Larry said, "Does anybody know anyone who makes $200,000 a year locally?" I mean, I know you're close to that, but
No, I'm not close to that.
but
I know one.
I wish I was.
One. There are people, but it's very few. I mean, it's probably
Yeah, it is. It's a few
a
and far
small
between.
percentage,
It is
right.
a small percentage. They're called outliers because most of us are around the mean or the average, and some are below. But most Americans right now are struggling to get ahead. We're coming out of an economic depression pretty much with the price of eggs and the price of gas. Gas hit $1.98
not here.
in certain places across the country this week. So you're seeing
wish
that.
it would.
You're
in 3
seeing
years.
that Donald Trump's tariff.
I saw gas for
Initiative.
$3.09 yesterday.
Donald Trump's tariff initiative is
Was that in
is
town,
generating
maybe?
a lot of revenue.
Yes,
The
Dave.
tariff revenue just smashed records at $15.9 billion collected in the month of April alone. So what I'm telling you is people can set the tariffs, and the media and the Democratic Party and members of the Democratic Party are still basically going off the rocker over tariffs and the initiative itself, but it is generating money. And a lot of these countries are willing to sit down and make deals. And right now, talk about China. I think I saw something that China had kind of reduced their tariffs on the United States because they now know that we don't have to rely on them. We can make deals with other people around the world to get the things that we desire, and it crushes the Chinese economy. So,
That's right. Let's see. All right, guys. I see how many of you are watching. Where I am working, gas is over $3. I saw it for $3.09 yesterday.
it's most places here in West Liberty.
Jackson,
I want to say it's about
$2.77.
$2.77, $2.75, but
$2.99 over here at 205 across the hill here.
give it time. These initiatives they're not going to take place overnight. I think people were under the assumption that things would just change immediately, but what we have seen is a drastic reduced price in gas. Also, price of eggs has lowered tremendous goods, but people should be happy because during the Biden administration, the average consumer spent about $400 to $500 more dollars at the grocery store per month simply because of the accelerated cost of goods. So there are a lot of changes going on.
All right, guys. I think I know where everybody's at. Let's see what we got here. It's possible to read the meter wrong, but we are always willing to go back and read the meter again and correct it if a mistake was made. Like I said, I just heard this guy over talking at the store Thursday. I don't know. So I don't know. Deborah would have to fill you more in on that because I don't even remember who the people were. All right, guys. So I know this is what you guys are waiting for and why everything keeps climbing. And why that every time I walk out my door, there's someone waiting to talk about it. So, everywhere I go, it's the talk of the county.
Everywhere you go, people want to know.
Everywhere I go, people want to know. I went down to the local little store here in Caney earlier today and had 3 different people ask me about it while I was there.
And we are blessed to have in Camel City.
And we are great. I mean, they were constituents of mine, so they were doing exactly what they elected me to be. Coming to me as a school board member and asking questions and stuff. And that topic is the current middle school topic. Basically, I don't know anything new. They had some kind of meeting the other night. It was in the paper. What did they call it? Some kind of planning committee. That's nothing to do with the board. I didn't even know anything about it till last second. Someone said something about it. I don't even know what they do there. Obviously, they planned something. It's not anything to do with the board, but, it's open to the public from what I was told. And, from now on, I think it's definitely something that I'm going to be interested in. If I can figure out, if they keep putting it in the paper, I'll start looking at the papers and try to figure out what that is, because I was told earlier today that at the planning committee that the middle school situation was talked about. So I don't know what updates were given that day, but we'll go off of what we already know, and that is that I'm just going to throw out a number right now and say the people that I've talked to, all of them are pissed about this topic. I mean, at this point, it's going to be sad for Morgan County, because I had 2 different parents today, 4 different children that we will lose in our school system if this happens. So, I know one of the things with the middle school was that it's an enrollment issue, that while we're having to do it, it's an enrollment issue. But we're going to have a major enrollment issue if this happens. So, I've not talked to hardly anybody that has a kid that's coming up, through elementary or middle school currently that go to high school, that has said their kid will be attending. So, it's going to be bad. Our enrollment's going to continue to drop. I don't know.
Don't you think the first question should be, why is your enrollment dropping?
Right.
Let's look into this. Let's do an investigation or put a committee together to look at why are numbers in the district declining.
They don't want to ask that. What they want to say is that people who homeschool their kids do not care about education. And that's not the fact at all, because I can tell you right off several that I know that their older kids are in high school or have graduated high school, but their younger kids are now homeschooling. And there's reasons for that.
Maybe
it's not because they don't care about education.
No, it's not because they don't care about education. I know 3, and it's not that I'm a huge supporter of homeschool. I respect homeschool parents, homeschool guardians, whatever. I know 3 homeschool students right now that I can name, but I won't, that I would put up against any public school kid per grade, which grade, those students are, and I guarantee you they would test right along with them. So, it's not that the homeschools, and I'm not saying that all homeschools are that way, but I know there's probably some homeschools that are just what it sounds like. They bring the kids home, they run and play games, run chickens in the yard all day, don't ever do anything. But the homeschool parents that are involved in their child's learning and everything like that, they are all about the education and stuff that goes along with it. But one of the things that I was also told about the middle school was it's something to do with the roof. The roof's leaking, or there's a bad roof. Wouldn't it be cheaper to fix the roof than it would be to tear the school down? Like the construction and everything that you would have to do to remove a school, take it all away, everything. I mean, wouldn't it be cheaper to fix the roof? I mean, I'm not a construction person. I know we got some construction people watching, but wouldn't it be cheaper to fix the? I mean, we're coming up on summer break in a few weeks, so couldn't we fix the roof? I mean,
back to the dispute of the utility bill. I just want to say this on David's behalf. He said the meter was read wrong, but they went out and corrected it and corrected the price.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, I don't know. I mean, that's wonderful.
A story, and I just want to make sure
that is wonderful. I mean, like I said, I just wanted to bring that up, but here's, I'm just trying to go.
I talked to some retired school teachers a while ago, and they do not like the idea of merging the 7th and 8th graders down to the high school.
Well, you ain't going to find nobody. I'm not, and I doubt anybody will find anybody that will be happy with that.
They fear for the situations that we may be putting our seniors in, as we just had one not too long ago. Be it you put 12-year-olds in with 18-year-olds, it's a bad combination.
Right. Well, I mean, I have started questioning students. Now, some students that I've questioned, they'll be graduated before that happens, but I ask them that situation. Larry says it'll be an easy job. Just put a new flat roof over the old. So,
well, let me say this. Having been in the new high school, the problem with the new high school is we spent probably $45 million for a new high school, but they didn't build that school with the mindset that they were going to get expanded numbers in the building. Yeah, we could see the enrollment in the county going up, fluctuating 50 to 75 kids, but you're talking about bringing 2 entire grade levels, 8th and 7th, which means they're going to have to do some massive renovations to the high school to accommodate capacity with the numbers that they're going to have. Are they going to put those kids in the ATC building? Are they going to put them in the new high school? Are they going to eliminate the courtyard and build classrooms out in the courtyard? So you're looking at a massive.
Put them in the lunchroom.
You're looking at a massive renovation project that is going to take place, which is going to cost money, taxpayer dollars. But in the long run, you're saving energy costs. You're saving repair costs on a building that they deem needs a new roof. You put a Band-Aid on the issue. The only problem with the Band-Aid is it serves the purpose for a small amount of time, and then you got to fix that problem.
Here's what I don't understand is that my house had to have a roof, and I put a roof on it.
You didn't tear it down?
I didn't tear it down and build a new house. I don't know when we got to this point that we just tear down and I don't know. But
Are they going to tear down the entire building?
Everything but the gym. That's what I've been told. That's what if this happens, like I said, I mean, there's still no. I've not voted on this.
Anybody go to the planning committee? Because
anybody watching right now that went to the planning committee that knows what was talked about the other night, feel free to comment, private message me, call. The phone number's on here. I'll even look and see.
If my memory serves me correctly, maybe
I'm
wrong.
I don't even know a single person on the planning committee, so I don't.
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I believe there's one entire wing at the middle school that's not being used at the present time. I mean, I think 6th graders are on one wing and the 7th and 8th graders are on one wing. Well, that building has four wings, so that means that there's one area that is pretty well not being used at all, if my memory serves me correctly.
See, Larry's saying he thinks in the next 2 to 3 years that there may be a new middle school built. That's what they're doing. They're only going to be a temporary. And like I said, that could be it. All I know is I was told that 3 or 4 years from now they was going to be doing this. And then within a couple of weeks, it moved to August. And then August, they wouldn't be able to have in the budget to be able to make it happen in August, so they moved it to next August.
My thing, why?
So it's like it went from 3 or 4 years to now just a little over a year.
Why wouldn't they say that? Because that's going to create a lot less turmoil in the community if you say we have to temporarily place them here.
I think that would be better.
While we build a new middle school. For me, I think that if that were the case, why wouldn't they say that? Because it would definitely create less turmoil.
But I have questioned more students today, younger students. I have questioned numerous students about this and asked that question. How do you feel about it? You want to know how many of them told me they loved the idea and they thought it was a wonderful idea and they can't wait? Right there. Right there. Every one of them. Don't like the idea. I even had one tell me that he would be a senior when this happens, and he don't want to be put in a predicament where there might be younger kids with him that could cause trouble and, could be. All right, here you go. We've got one right now. I'm going to send my kid to Wolf County. So, there we go. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm going to put that up here, Aaron. Hang on just a second. Because I want them to be able to see this. There's your Morgan County parent right there. Actually, one of my constituents right there.
One of many that have said that's.
So he's not homeschooling, but he's going to transfer his kid out to another county. So
when that happens and they lose enrollment.
So that's what I'm saying. When I say enrollment's going to continue to decrease, maybe at a higher rate, if this happens, it isn't because I'm saying they're going to homeschool. That right there is what I'm talking about too. You're going to have some homeschool. You're going to have some send their kids to Wolf County. Some's going to transfer to Round County, Elliott County, wherever they can get to. What other area of the county they live in that they could probably get to easier, they will transfer to that other school. And I mean, from here to Wolf County, from where we're at now, Wolf County is the closest, school this side. But, I don't know.
David had a good question. How'd the superintendent get a raise if enrollment's down?
Well, as we all know, I didn't have anything to do with that. Maybe we could go ask the other 4 guys, or, like I said, go in and ask the office. I'm not really sure how that worked either, but it's oddly odd, I guess is the word I'm just looking for. How you could be given raises that high, but the enrollment's down to the point where you're not talking about closing out in the county schools just yet, like, an Ezell or an East Valley or somewhere up in them areas. You're talking about closing one of the main, probably the second biggest school in our county. You're talking about closing it. And it's like, I don't know.
You would think Ezell would probably be the.
Well, I was talking to.
But now they underwent some major renovations in the last 3 to 4 years, I think. But
still, I mean, you would have think. I mean, to me, and I had a discussion today with a former board member, and that's what we talked about. And it's like, you figure the elementary schools would close first, and they would consolidate maybe into the middle school, which still would be an issue, but it would make a little bit more sense than just shutting your second biggest school down and moving the kids elsewhere. And let's see, where was that at? Larry says, is there any empty rooms in the elementary schools? I've not seen any which I've only been in 2.
Head Start's in a few of them.
But Head Start is in a few. But when I mentioned Head Start leaving in a couple of years or whatever, when our big new building supposedly gets built in town that we didn't talk about during our earlier talk, that Gateway was supposed to be moved into that. I was told that the schools are ready now. Like we could do this transition starting Monday morning because there's enough room to make it happen. I don't know. What I remember of the high school, I never saw it when I was at the high school. Not what I would call an empty room to move 7th and 8th grade, so you'd have well over 100 students, right, coming from 2 different classes down there. So they'd have to be
more than that.
Could be more than that. And then my thing was yesterday I got thinking, there's only one lunchroom. So even if they tried to separate them and put them like over in the technology center building, you're still going to have to eat lunch together,
Or
right?
you just have an additional lunch.
Because we got what, 3 now? There's 3 lunches, I believe. So I mean, if you have 2 other lunches, the majority of the school day is going to go to lunches. You're going to have 2.5, 3 hours of the day being for lunch. I just think the county is so far in debt that once the state takes over, they can pull themselves out. That's one. Where we at here? Make sure.
Well, then there's other issues you have to think about when you consolidate 7 through 12. Okay, you've got a principal at the high school and a principal at the middle school, assistant principal and 2 assistants at the high school, and is the funds going to be allocated for all those positions to continue?
Well, that's another question. What's going to happen? No, I had that asked the other day.
There's a lot.
What's going to happen
There's
to
a
the staff?
lot of questions that have to be answered.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I think Katrina Gillum had a good point there. She said, why not move the board office? No need for a building that big and make it a temporary middle school where the board office is currently. If you're going to just tear it down and build a new middle school. But we haven't heard that plan.
Yeah, I've not heard that. I mean, hopefully, a question that I was asked yesterday, I was asked, she said it again here, the Board of Education building will be a perfect temporary middle school. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, hell, it was a college. It was an off-site college campus. I mean, Morehead State, and it housed many of classes. I mean, that would be the perfect place to do it. Be better than putting them in the high school. I mean, that's a good idea. And but Aaron said, where did it say here? I graduated from Morgan County. I just don't want him to go to Morgan. And he said we tried to send him to Head Start, but apparently we make too much money here in Morgan. I don't have a fight well, like someone said here, Melina, I don't have a dog in the fight, even with Head Start. But I wish there was a way that every kid could go to school. I really do. I mean, Head Start or any school, they should be able to pick what school they want to go to and should be able to go.
I think Head Start is income based.
I think so.
Unless your kid has speech issues or something, maybe. I don't really know how that application works.
I don't know. I can't really remember how that went, but let's see. One of the things I wrote down here about it was, and this is probably going to get a lot of fun conversations started and some phone calls, but phone's right here, still waiting. But the school system has a motto that says that they are all about the futures of the children that go to this school system. But yet the children of this school system are saying, we don't like this idea and we don't feel comfortable doing it. Why are we not listening to these kids? Why are they not listening to these kids? Go to the schools, send a little weird survey thing out in their Google Chromebooks or whatever, in their, Google Classroom. Send out a survey in Google Classroom. Ask these students what they think about it, the ones that will be middle school and going into high school. And I guarantee you'll be surprised of what these students are going to tell you, because I've talked to them, not just the ones around here. I've talked to other students in other parts of the county, and they've come up to me. Parents from other parts of the county. Talked to a lady yesterday. I don't even know who the lady is, so I don't know if she's one of my constituents or not, because I've never seen her before. But she was asking me about it yesterday, and she said her kid's not going to be going. Her kid's going to be coming into middle school, and I don't remember if she said he or she, but she said they wouldn't be going. Casey Law says here, listen to the kids. They know best. Exactly. Listen to the kids. If the kids is what you say that you work for and that you do your job for, then listen to the kids and don't go through with this. Like I said, if you have to do something with the middle school, I like what I think it was Katrina that said there a minute ago. Put them over there. Put them over at the board office or something. Move them over there for a little while or something until you do. Which I don't know. I don't know if they're building a new school. I don't know if they're tearing the old school. All I was told, the school would be tore down. I don't know.
The retired teacher I talked to said she thought it would be better if they had to merge, that it would be better to bring the 6th, 7th, and 8th back to the elementary school rather than putting 7th and 8th into the high school. it's just you have so much potential for bad situations if you pull 12-year-olds in with 18-year-olds. It just
Aaron had a really good point. They don't care to take my taxes from all the money that they say we make.
oh yeah,
Well, I mean, there you go.
that's bad.
If you've got school tax wrote on any of your utility bills or whatever you pay bills to, your kids should be able to go to whatever school they want to. If you're paying a Morgan County school tax, your kids should be able to do what they want. They should go to Head Start, kindergarten, 3rd, 4th, 10th. They should be able to do anything they want to do because you're paying school taxes, which will be coming up in about August or September. So that'll be another fun event.
You do
But-
have the right to choose school, and that's why our enrollment's dropped as well. It's not just homeschooling. They blame homeschooling, but there's a lot of people that pulled their kids and taken them to Wolf County, some other schools. We have one that left and went to Ashland. There's two.
Two that went up there.
Ashland.
Well, Boyd and
So,
Ashland. But
or Boyd County, but I know several that's been taken to Wolf County to Red River Elementary. So I mean, there's
well, you've got Aaron on here saying his kid's going to be going over there. I don't know if it'll be Red River or, what school, but he'll be going to Wolf County. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. And he's not the only parent I'm talking to I've talked to because, well, I'm not, this is the first time I've even, spoke with Aaron about it. But, so, I mean, Aaron's not one of the ones I've talked to. So there's another one, the ad that says the kid won't be going to school here. And I hope somebody on here is listening. I see the viewer. I see how many people's watching. I see it. And I hope somebody sent this to them, and I hope they're watching right along with. He will go to Red River, Aaron said. So, I mean, there you go. How many Morgan County elementary school age kids have left here to go to Red River?
I know
There's
several.
a bunch.
I know several.
A bunch. I mean, there's a bunch right here in my district that I know have left.
Yes, there are.
I mean, I knocked on their doors and asked for their vote, and they're like, well, our kids don't go to school here, but we'll vote for you. But, so I have to do what I got to do there. But, so, I mean, like I said, I hope you are sending it to them and they're watching right now. Just read the comments. That's all I need you to do because, the phones obviously ain't ringing. But call in if you want to. If there's any school official right now that wants to tell me a little bit more about what's going on, call it. I'm just saying, let's not have no private meeting behind closed doors because here's the opportunity. Call. I don't know, David. I mean, I really didn't understand that either. That's why I voted no. Because all I heard last year at all the board meetings I went to and all the different things that I talked to people about with school systems and stuff was they're having all these issues. A lot of technology issues with like Chromebooks and stuff that are starting to come out of date and all this other stuff, they're going to have all this extra money and stuff for. And then, on my very first night, we get the contract extension and the pay raise and everything. And it's like, I'm sitting there thinking that myself. I'm like, how? And just last month at the meeting, one of the other board members brought up a topic. They was talking about doing a bid on something. And last year, the bid, or whenever the last time we used the bid, was $19,000, and now they had a bid for $25,000. So that's $6,000 increase that we're going to be paying for if that went through. Why not try to look at other companies and try to keep that bid, where it was last year? And I voted along with him. I'm like, I agree with that. Why are we continuing to spend money if our enrollment's down? Because if your enrollment's down, you can't buy children.
Why?
You can't take your budget money if you've got money in the budget and go out here and buy these children and say, hey, we need you to come back to school. It don't work that way.
Administration positions as well. Why are we increasing the amount of administration positions, and why do we have assistants and things like this when our enrollment is down? I mean, I'm asking a question. Why are we putting more administration positions in place, and we're saying enrollment's down? So enrollment's down, that means less money in, right? Matthew makes so much money per kid that's at school per day, right?
ADA, average daily attendance.
So if our enrollment's down, we're
All
getting
right,
less money. We're giving raises that obviously we shouldn't have the money for because our enrollment's down, and then we're also putting more administrative positions in. I don't understand that.
Aaron says the kids where I work get a better education than the public schools, and we only have eight kids in a class. And I know where Aaron works. I mean, I think it's a part of our school system, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, it's It's not one of our public schools, but I mean it's a school. So and that just goes to show you right there. Yeah, not 30 kids there, and you only got 8 in the class. Larry said, "Don't Morgan County have a teacher shortage?" Um, Certified teachers, I know their numbers are getting ready to get even lower because we got retirements coming up at the end of the month, and so a lot of our certified teachers are going to be retiring. There's a lot. Only what do they call it? Classified. You have classified teachers that are like, what's the program? MIT or what's that program called that you can come in and teach?
MAT,
MAT.
Masters of Arts Teaching.
MAT. That you can come into and work on your degree as you're teaching. So yeah, I mean, we got a lot of those too. So I mean, I don't know if it's a shortage, but I mean, obviously we do have a lot of those that are in the system right now that are working on becoming certified teachers and getting to fill those voids. David, that's a question that I'd like to answer myself. And I'll just tell you what I was told when I asked that question from somebody in that row. We have as many administrative positions now as we did when I went to school over here, is what I was told.
No way.
And that's when the little board office was over by the football field across from the old Cougar Den there.
Back in Matthew in my day, there were like 3 or 4 board positions.
Well, honey, back in your all's day, there wasn't even schools. You all went to an old barn or something other, but I mean,
You saying we're old?
well, yeah.
I don't appreciate that, do you?
But I can remember.
We operate.
I can
very
remember
efficiently.
going into our board office.
But I can also remember this: if it wasn't broke, don't
We didn't
fix it.
That's right.
99% of our kids today, and I don't mean this in a negative way, because of programs. Education likes programs, and what they do is they adopt programs, and the initiatives sound great. The only problem is, between me and you, the ultimate end goal doesn't get the results as it did in the past. When I graduated in 1990, that kind of tells my age a little bit. Right after I graduated, the Kentucky Educational Reform Act, or what was called CARA, came into effect, and they wanted students to be more versatile, more disciplined in various areas, and you get what were called portfolios that came in. You had those portfolios that everybody dreaded.
I always had to write those papers and stuff for and stuff.
Well, can you imagine the teachers? The teachers hated it because they had to what?
They had to sit and read
They had
it.
to assess it. They had to grade it. And what's happened is over the last 25 years of education, if you look at where we were in 1980 when the Department of Education came in, we were ranked number 1 or 2 in the world. Now we're ranked 31st in the world because our kids don't get a strong foundation. A house is only as strong as its foundation. So, I can say this. When I went to Wrigley Elementary and I had teachers like Miss Patrick, Miss Johnson, Miss Clevenger, Miss Wells, Miss Smith, they did an extremely good job providing a great foundation for what was to come. And I'm not going to say that I graduated with straight A's in high school. I
know you did.
I got a diet. I had a diet of variety of grades.
I know one
But
teacher you forgot to mention.
But I am going to look at you and tell you that most kids had a strong mathematical foundation. They could do their multiplication tables. Now kids count on their hands, and they have to use a calculator to do it. And if you don't have that calculator, a lot of times kids can't get it. I can't tell you the number of kids that I come in contact with or have come in contact with in the last 27 years of education that can't tell time.
That's exactly right.
And I'm like, you
visual.
need to know what time it is, but they'll know if it's a digital clock.
Right.
But if it's not a digital clock, okay.
That's because those kids mainly, well, maybe not in your early part of your 27 years, but, because we didn't have stuff like that. But nowadays, everybody almost has a cell phone or an iPod or, an iPad or some kind of game system. So there's this big old number thing, that pops up every time you click on your phone. So you're able to see all of this. And so why do we put our kids in a situation like that? Why do we take a school away?
As I
and
said,
continue to do that?
the Department of Education invests in these programs, and they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions.
Aaron said
And they
cursive.
do-
Well, there's two of them, 2 in a row.
And they do
Cursive
not want,
writing.
and they do not want all that money to go
Waste.
for a lost cause,
3
or
in
to
a row.
waste. And what I'm gonna look at you and tell you is, a lot of times those programs are swept under the rug. We're gonna do this we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this from now to the end of the time. 2 years later, we abandon that program. We adopt a new one.
Mhm.
So it's just constant adoption of new ideas, new
So no
policies,
consistency.
and it's constant change that don't produce results. Look at results. If you want your test scores to go up, look at your data. Look at your students identify students that are on the borderline that you can push there. We're test score driven right now. It's all based on results. The only problem is, okay, you should realistically have to pass a test at the end of your freshman year to graduate, to ascend to the sophomore year. When you're a senior, there should be an exit exam. Now, am I saying it should be so difficult that half of your population fails?
Half of
No,
your class don't
but
take it. But
a lot of it needs to be basic things,
Basic skills.
so that our kids can be productive members of society. How many kids can't count money?
yeah.
Oh my
I
God.
Well, look
mean-
at this. We had 3 in a row. Aaron, Casey, and Victoria came through 3 in a row that said kids don't know how to write in cursive. What year did that even go away? Because it's been
Well,
going.
we learned that when I was in school. How
we
to
had
write
we had
cursive.
to learn it when we was in school. So that's what I'm saying. So I don't know exactly when that went away, but I know it has because I've talked to my kids and other kids today.
And I'm not condemning teachers. It's not teachers' fault.
No, it's what they're required.
It's what
to
they're
teach,
required.
yes.
It's called their curriculum.
That's
They
right.
have to teach what the state mandated
And a lot of
curriculum
them
is.
don't even care for what they're teaching. They just have to do it because that's what.
That's
they're
exactly
required
right.
to do.
I'm required to do this, and I'm not saying that school administrators are the problem. I'm saying a lot of the initiatives that are being passed down to us are not common sense or practical in nature. You got a kid that's not going to go to college. That kid needs to be able to read, write, and do arithmetic. It needs to be able to do basic math, tell time, and follow instructions.
David also said here, teachers, cooks, and janitors and bus drivers need pay raises, and I agree with that. We can give $20,000, but if we could give $20,000 raises to other administrators, we should be able to give big raises. Not obviously, probably not $20,000 to all of those, but I mean a pretty decent bump to where they make enough money to want to stay with the school
I
system.
would like to say,
And that's what I'm trying to do my best. Every time I get called in to have a private meeting in the board office or something, that's one of the first things I talk about. What about our cooks? And what about our custodians? And, I was told the bus drivers got a pretty good bump. But obviously, we still can't get bus drivers. So that obviously tells me that it's not a pay issue. It's not a pay issue when it comes to bus drivers.
It is a lack of support, and when you're responsible for driving, somebody told me they have 50 some kids on a bus now. When you have to drive 50 some kids on a bus, you're liable for all 50 of those kids or whatever, and you're liable for yourself. So you're trying to get them home safely and drive your route safely. When you have discipline issues on your bus that are so distracting and stuff that you can't drive, you can't do what your ultimate responsibility is, which is move a kid from point A to point B, and you have no support from administration with those discipline problems, you are not going to have bus drivers. And no one wants that much liability.
And David said something there a minute ago about, the administration or whatever over there. How do we keep giving raises and, continuing to talk about enrollment? What I'm going to say with the administration thing, because like I said, when I asked about why we have so many administrative roles nowadays, I was told bluntly that we have just as many now as we did when we were a kid, but I know better than that because I've even talked to one of the people lately that even worked in the board office when I was in school, and she says, no, we don't. So I know that's the issue there. But the second issue and the biggest issue with her administrative office is how does that go? There's more chiefs.
Not enough Indians.
There's
too many chiefs.
Too many chiefs, not enough Indians, and there's where the issue occurs. Everybody wants a form of being over something or having this and that instead of, and it goes back along back to where I was talking about a minute ago, with the middle school situation, and basically how how can we say that we're for the kids, but the kids are basically reaching out to people right now and saying, we don't want this. So if the kids is the top priority and the kids is what we're supposed to be here for, and I know I'm going to be standing with the kids because it's just what I do and it's what I've always done, why is the rest of them? Why are you not listening to the kids? And that's where I'm going to leave that at with this part with the middle school, and I've got a picture here. To me, I think we've got a beautiful middle school. I mean, and I've got this picture from a Facebook page here, but we've got a beautiful middle school. But the gym part here that you see on the left side, behind the flagpoles, that's what I was told would be left. I mean, I don't know about the offices and that first little entrance thing there. But, that's to me is why are we, and I think Casey said it there moments ago, the kids are the ones that you need to be listening to. And if the kids are saying, we don't like this idea and we don't want to be put in this situation, then you need to be listening to those kids and saying, this is not a good idea. We have to figure out something else. We have to figure out another way to do something. If the middle school is not working, which I've not seen it. I just done a tour in the middle school a couple of months ago. I never seen no leaking or no major issues. To me, it looked like it was functioning fine to me. Then, that's why I want to understand why all of a sudden now the middle school is like, we got to tear her down. So listen to the kids. That's where I'm going to be. Let me pull this back up here. If anybody's watching right now, and I'm sure there's a few of you on here that are only watching to see what I was going to say, send this over to them for all I care. Phone's going to ring off the hook. I don't care. I'll tell them on the phone. That's why we've actually got the phone number up here because I was hoping they would just call, but they won't. But if you're all about the kids, then it's time to show that. And I was told today, and I know I'm not allowed to say this word online, especially over on the tube, without getting kicked off. But I was told today that 4 board members that don't do something inside of this, it's going to be called political. Basically,
they're going to be harming their next election.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, and people's going to say, "Oh, you just made that up," because that's No, I didn't. I have talked to people from every district in this county, and they've all told me the same thing. You're the only one. You're the only one that we know to talk to that's going to stand up for us when it comes to this. Because, and I'm like, I don't have to be. So, my thing is, if anybody else is watching out there, let's work together and make sure this doesn't happen. Let's not put our kids in a dangerous situation. Let's not get our kids to where, they're uncomfortable and not wanting to be there, where the kids are going to move our kids. You want our enrollment to go up? Let's keep our kids, work together, keep our kids here, do better, and make everything right. If not, we're going to be on national news like our fellow people up to the north here in Round County, because look at the situation going on in Round County. You move these younger kids over here, you're going to have all kinds of issues. Very easily could have an issue similar to that. Maybe students or whatever, may not be the same. But I mean, imagine that happening here all because of a stupid decision to combine schools when nobody wants that to happen.
As a board member, you are elected official to represent your constituents in your district. Ultimately, the middle school is owned by the taxpayers. It's not owned by the Morgan County school system per se. The taxpayers own the buildings, and I think one of the board members kind of got huffy with me when I told him Herdman Field was not their field to decide on. That's the taxpayers' field, and it is the taxpayers' field. It's the taxpayers' buildings. You, as an elected official to represent your constituents, have a duty to discuss this and talk to your
I love
constituents
you, Wanda.
about how they feel about it. You should be doing that. You represent the public. You should ask the public how they feel.
Money didn't work the last time you got in. Oh, I love Wanda. She's something else. But that is true. That is true. I was able to beat the money, and like I said, I don't care about no money. You can throw all the money you want to against me. I'm not here for money. I don't care about no money. I was elected constable for free. So it's like, I wanted to be for the school board because they took all the rights of the constable away. So I resigned so I could work for the school system, with the school system and do better for the kids, So let's do better for the kids. David's here. I'll put it right up here. What David said, elected officials are there to represent the will of the people and who voted for them. And that's exactly right. Just like today. The 3 people that I talked to today at one store were all 3 my constituents. And I had conversations with all 3 of them. And that's what I'm there. That's why they elected me. That's why they put me in there. So they can come up to me in public. But now, like I said, I get people in IGA. I get people over at the pharmacies. I get people at Dairy Queen that I know are not in my district. And they come up asking questions and stuff, and I answer them just like I would anybody in my district. Because if you remember when I ran on, I don't just stand for the children in my district. I stand for the children in all of Morgan County. And that goes for Head Starts and, younger generations, kids that aren't even in school yet. I'm standing for you because I'm trying to put a boundary there so you have something to look forward to, when those kids do come into school. We're going to be having graduating seniors coming up here in a few weeks. So, you want to make school enjoyable and make it as best as you can for these kids. And, having kids look at me and say, I wouldn't be comfortable with the 7th and 8th grade coming to the high school. Or having 7th or 8th graders look at me and say, that scares me to death knowing that I'm going to go to the high school. And then having parents say, my kids just ain't going to the high school. So that's what I'm getting at is I'm listening. And hopefully people in the offices and the other people are also listening too, because, the kids don't want it. I don't want it. So you got my answer of what I'm going to be doing. So, when I've got kids saying, I don't like this idea, that's all I need to know. I don't even have to talk to their parents because I already know that their parents is already not going to like it if the kids don't. So it's like when I have parents coming up to me and say, we're moving our kids somewhere else, I have to look at that parent and say, I respect that because I can't sit and beg them to stay here and then go into a situation like this. So we've got to fix that. We've got to fix it. I mean, things have got to be done and, go from there. See what we got here real fast. It's like that out here. High school starts at 7th grade. Yeah. Well, imagine that, Victoria. You went to school here. Imagine that. When we went into 7th grade, they moved us from 7th grade down to the high school and just threw us in there with these older kids. 7th graders, you're not mature enough to be put with these other kids. You're not mature enough to know how to act or, anything like that. It's just, I don't know. And like I said, we've opened the phone lines. The phone number's been up there pretty much the whole night. Just wanting to see if people would call in and ask stuff. And I've done everything I could do. We've talked for well over an hour about local stuff. I even mentioned the situation at Round County. I don't really know a whole lot about it. What I've read. The reason I kept up with the Round County situation is I sat back and think, because even the Board of Education, the school board is getting sued there. So, that's when I started looking more into it and like, what is this? Why are these kids walking out of school? What's going on? And, the more and more I read into it, the more and more I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that's yay to those students, for standing up for themselves, and for their protection. But that goes along with what, I was just talking about. That could easily be our students. That could easily be a student right here, in this county, and we have a situation like that, and we don't want that to happen. And we want Morgan County schools to be nationally recognized, but not on national news for something other, that's going to make a bad name and a bad reputation for your school system. We don't want that. So we want to move forward and go where we need to be at, and strive to do the best that we can do with it. See, here's people saying, if they would have went to back in our day of 7th grade, would have been terrified. Middle school kids are just finding themselves in their way. Fights will increase, bullying will increase, and among worst things that could happen. That's right. And look here, we even got somebody that used to go to Morgan County that even got kids in a different school system that says Morgan County, in my opinion, still has the best school system. So look at there. That's what I'm saying. So, we've got former students and stuff in Morgan County that don't even have kids in the system that are still saying it. So, I mean, let's keep Morgan County that way. And, I'm pretty sure after this conversation, I think if any of my voters are watching this, or any of my my constituents are seeing this, I think they've kind of figured out where my vote is on this. And I stand with you. I stand with the kids. As soon as I had the very first kid, and it ain't one of my kids, as soon as I had a kid that I talked to and asked that situation to, and they told me they didn't like it, they wouldn't feel comfortable, I knew right then and there.
The only problem is, where do the other 4 stand?
No. I guess that'll be something we'll find out.
Are they going to stand with the people and the voice of the kids, or are they going to stand with the option to consolidate the 7 through 12 and simply respond with a yes? There comes a point where you have to have principles. You have to stand up for what is right. And if this is going to create animosity and a lot of issues in your community, then you got to sit down and address those issues. Like I said, I don't have any kids in the school system, so for me to actually say I have a dog in the fight, I don't. I am a taxpayer in this county, but I've been an administrator. I realize the potential problems you have. Freshmen come in, year out. 9th graders are extremely immature. That doesn't mean that they don't grow up and become productive members of society. They do. And they usually grow up between their freshman and sophomore years. Disciplinary issues are only going to escalate in the school when you put 12 or 7th graders and 8th graders in with potential high school kids, unless you've got a very strict disciplinary system in place and you're on top of these kids and you're making sure that there's accountability. Because I'm just going to tell you, when you talk about any business, there has to be accountability. That means making sure that teachers, when they turn kids in, those kids are corrected, those kids are punished, and those kids are made to understand that what they've done is a distraction to the educational flow of the day. If you don't have that, Mike, you don't have a school system. You have a chaotic building.
That's where we are.
Do
There's
not
a lack of support.
Wrong page. No, I mean, the problem is these days, when I went to school, well, I'll just say it. I mean, it is what it is. You get your ass whipped. You would get paddled. The principal would take you in there, and after a couple licks with that big hard wooden paddle, you learn pretty quickly not to do whatever it was you done again. Well, normally when you got home, your mother, your father, your grandparents, whoever you lived with, they wore you out again. So, you learn pretty quickly not to do that again. The problem with the schools these days, and I'm not even talking about just our school, I'm talking about all schools, is there's so many new rules and regulations that says you can't tell kids no. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. My kid's a junior, and he works at IGA here in West Liberty. And I asked him yesterday, I said, I need to ask you a question, Aiden. He said, what's that? I said, when you're at work at IGA and it comes time to making decisions, I said, do you ever get told no? And he said, yes, all the time. So, I mean, he's working a job in the real world and being told no, but at school you're not allowed to tell them no. You have to direct them in a different direction. It has to be something that's done in a different form. And, as I learned on a public live that I did from the school board page, shortly after the election, because I was asking, parents and everybody about the PBIS system. Then I find out it's PBIS is not just a local thing; it's a state Frankfurt thing. It came from Frankfurt. That every school district has it, and I just think I don't know. If done correctly, I think PBIS would work. If PBIS was utilized the way that it's supposed to be utilized, I think it may not be a bad thing. But seeing as PBIS is used in a form of rewarding punishment, it makes people frown upon it a little bit more than what it should be.
In my opinion, discipline is not a form of punishment.
No, it isn't.
Discipline is a standard
It's
by which
redirection.
it's a standard by which you hold people accountable because you are pursuing excellence. You can't pursue excellence and get to where you want to go if you're having to deal with constant distractions that disrupt the educational flow of the day. You can't do it. So PBIS, positive behavioral intervention systems, does not mean that you do not have a punishment or a penalty for certain actions. If a kid brings drugs into the school, what are you going to do? You going to sweep it under the rug? You going to send them home? Or are you going to turn it over to the law? What are you going to do? Because at the very moment that you don't punish that kid for
They're gonna
bringing
keep doing it.
drug
Set
paraphernalia
up,
into the
And
building,
you're setting them
you
up.
are setting a standard that you're accepting unacceptable behavior. And parents hear that, they're going to do what with their kids in the school district? They're yanking them.
Right.
Why? They want them out
And
of
where
there.
does your enrollment go?
It goes down.
Goes down. So I mean, that's my point. That's another topic that comes along with the enrollment. David and everybody's been mentioning, with the enrollment. When you're utilizing a system in the wrong way, your enrollment's going to go down. So there's definitely a phone call
For some
coming down
reason,
now.
the belief is that PBIS does not allow consequences, and that's not true. What PBIS is recognizing when a kid that does negative behavior.
We're worried
turns
too much
around
about data.
and starts doing
And I'm not being mean when I say that.
corrected behavior, then you're supposed to praise that. That's okay. You should praise good behavior on a regular, normal, everyday good student. My problem is that I've seen kids who behave so badly be rewarded with various things, McDonald's, milkshakes,
I like milkshakes.
and
Not too bad of an
the
idea.
thing is that you have a lot of kids who do every day the right way, and they don't get any kind of rewards like that.
Matthew comes into my classroom. He flips the desk, tears up a Chromebook. 2 or 3 months later, Matthew's had no behaviors. He's done better. He's apologized. He even picked up his table, worked, done something other to help. You know what I'm saying? He's done better over time. Maybe even by the end of the school year. If this happened the first semester, by the end of the school year, his behaviors increased. There's a little chart. Maybe get him a milkshake. Maybe say, hey, you've improved. You were down here, and now you're here.
Well, I've improved. Bring on the shake.
Or something like that. But having a kid take the phone and sling it at the teacher and take them to the office and hand them the milkshake then and say, don't do it again.
Well,
That's why PBIS is not working.
And then Matthew
say
goes
it.
back to class and brags that he got a milkshake for throwing the phone.
That's why
across the room.
PBIS is
Deborah,
not
who's
working.
normally an everyday good student, wants a milkshake and decides that, hey, the only
So
way
hell,
I
I'm going to beat you to death with the
It's
stuff
to-
every day. I'm going to just keep throwing
That's
it.
what I'm saying. It's
You know?
a ridiculous concept.
Well, here's what in my opinion, and this is my opinion only, take it for
You
what
don't
it's
get paid
worth.
for it, do you?
I don't get paid for it.
No, I
You
don't.
take it for
I
what,
thought we was getting paid, man.
just take it for what it's worth. But who gets lost in the mix?
Are you okay?
I got choked. Who gets lost? Who gets lost in the mix? The good kids get lost in the mix.
Kids.
The kids that conform, follow the rules, do everything.
Matthew needs to lay off those milkshakes.
Hey, I love milkshakes, Coach. I love milkshakes. Ain't no problem with milkshakes. But we tend to forget that kids that follow the rules and do what's accepted don't get what?
They don't get
They don't get rewarded.
We actually
Can't
had a
do
kid
that.
come to us, and she knows what I'm talking about. Good kid, really good kid. Never gets in trouble that says, I'm a good kid. I do everything I'm asked to do in class. Why don't I get a milkshake? And that's the hard part, to look at a kid who has got good grades, who's never been sent to the office, who is spills something, they clean it up. You know what I'm saying? A really, really good kid that works their tails off in the classroom, but never gets the milkshake or the field trips or anything else. And they're sitting there thinking,
Somewhere down
what
the
have I
line,
done wrong? Because the kid that picked up the phone or the Chromebook and slung it into the wall and busted it all to pieces is getting to go to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger Happy Meal, you know, or something other.
I agree 100%. My thing is that we got to a point where we started wanting to give everything equal across the board, and hard work and following the rules meant nothing. Everyone's going to get the same rewards, just like participation trophies. So you have a kid who comes to practice every day. Matthew coaches basketball. You have one who puts in the work. They're every day on time to practice, puts in 100%, and then you have a kid who shows up once a week for practice. They're supposed to get the same reward as the person.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. They can't.
No, they don't. Because in the real world does not care about your feelings. People get laid off. People get fired.
That's
people
right.
lose their jobs.
You're told no to the job,
and you're told no, and you're given constructive criticism.
You get consequences.
And you get consequences for not meeting up to expectations.
Right.
So what's happening when we allow kids that are constant distractions to the educational flow of the day to disrupt the education of others? We are condoning our kids not performing to a high level.
That's right.
So expectations. There's nothing wrong, but as a coach, sometimes parents say, well, you're being negative because you demand. No, you have an expectation for that child. There is nothing wrong with that. You want that child to perform at a high level. It takes discipline. It takes commitment. It takes dedication. It takes working at it, because you're going to have to work at everything you do when you graduate. You're going to have to work your job.
If there were no expectations for us as human, we naturally would be lazy and not follow through. Because there are expectations, we do so. As adults,
Me
we
and
have
Mike would not be
expectations.
lazy.
You would be lazy.
You would be lazy. Me and
You
Matthew's
would
drinking
be-
milkshakes.
That's
You
right.
two would be lazy eating milkshakes all the time. But I'm just saying that
There's nothing
If
wrong
I could
with
get a
it.
milkshake all the time, I probably would be.
I'm just saying, we all have expectations. When we go to work every day, we have an expectation that we are to meet. There's nothing wrong with expectations. I work with people with disabilities, and I will tell you this. One of the things that I found is that people did not have expectations for them. They gave them an excuse. They gave them an out. My kids, when I worked with them, they were young adults. They would be like, no one thinks that I have the capability of being self-efficient. A lot of those kids were able to in a different way than you and I, but they still were able to. But not having any expectations for them creates disbelief in themselves. So that's the thing is that.
But we've got a society, and I don't mean this being mean, but it is what it is. But we've got a society right now that thinks no matter what you put in, you should ultimately get the highest reward.
That's right.
And that
That's
is
right.
that
That's
is
right.
not the way it works. I'm sorry.
You know what I was
Okay,
told growing
okay.
up? Life
If
is
you
not
don't
fair.
work hard and you don't put time in and you're not dedicated and you're not committed, you're not getting a college scholarship. I'm
That's
sorry.
right.
It's just so what are we going to do? Are we going to not create an incentive that we don't leave any child behind and we make sure everybody gets a scholarship? Not happening.
That's right. I mean, if you can get a college scholarship to play basketball right now, you can make millions of dollars with NIL money. But I'd be all right with that.
Well, and people are upset about the NIL money. I'll give you an example. Okay, this kid is bringing a lot of notoriety, a lot of publicity to that college institution, and that kid is selling tickets. That kid, if you're about paying them, the kid that brings the most revenue deserves to get what? The highest pay.
The highest pay. Yeah. Let's see here. Where are we at here? I went off to see if I had
And
any
that's the
private
truth. I
messages.
mean, think about it. Everybody has expectations. There's nothing wrong with expectations. As a teacher, if you don't perform, the expectation is that you're going to get constructive criticism to try to improve yourself. But if you don't,
Which is like she said,
within
right
the first
here,
5 years,
every
they're
day
gonna
I
lay
go
you
to
out.
work, I know what is expected of me, and if we don't meet those, we will not be having a job. And that's exactly right. And that goes along with school students. or that goes along with kids playing sports, or kids trying to find a job, or any of us trying to find a job. If you don't meet the expectations that is set forth in front of you,
And I'm not saying you don't give
there's
people
not.
chances.
Oh no, yeah, I mean
You
can
give
them
them multiple chances, but there comes a point where if they're not putting in the work and they're not putting in the time, a lot of times, and I'm not saying that I know anybody that does this, but I think sometimes teachers feel pressured by parents and school administrators sometimes to just kind of make it a cookie cutter activity to help enhance that kid's grade. Well, I mean, it ain't helping the kid.
No, you ain't helping no kid whatsoever. Got anything else here? All right, look at there, guys. We gave you guys an hour and a half of just local. We started out talking about local empty buildings in Morgan County. We talked about small businesses that continue to fail in Morgan County and why you shouldn't bring your business here. We started talking about, what else have we talked about? Utility bills, and how your utility bills are going up. And I mean, we've had the phone line on here for the whole hour and a half, basically begging people to call us and ask questions about local stuff. I mean, I knew why. That's why I saved the middle school talk to the last part of the local stuff, because I knew that it would be bigger. It would last longer. So for the last little bit here, last pretty good while, we've been talking the middle school stuff and schools and stuff like that, and I'm fine with that. I mean, that's what we're here for. But I mean, I do appreciate each one of you all that have asked questions in the comments, and have been talking about all of the local stuff and middle school and school system stuff and everything like that. I mean, that's what makes everything great. That's what makes us keep coming on here and doing everything. I've actually enjoyed this. Now, we're not going anywhere, but I've actually enjoyed doing this local talk. I mean, we've been able to get on here and ramble a little bit of time, and you can honestly say, a lot of people look at us and say we're conspiracies and crackpots and weirdos and everything in the world, but we've been talking about real local stuff that is happening right here in our county, and you all know that it's not made up stuff, so you can't look at us and say we've talked about anything in the last hour and a half that hasn't been, those teachers should talk. Those teachers should talk to a trusted board member if they feel pressured. Cornbread is a good one to talk to. I appreciate you, David. And I do have a lot of teachers. I won't tell you who they are, especially on the air, because if I do, they'd probably be fired in the next 3 weeks. And I don't care to tell anybody at the board office that. I have a lot of staff members that come to me all the time and talk to me, and I continue to ask them to do that because I never mention their names. So, that's what I was elected to do, and that's what I'll continue to do. In a place like that, I'd have to start over. Do you all know when the fair is going to be again in Morgan County? They've split the fair up so much here. Used to, they had the fair, it was like a one weekend event. Like you would have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever it was. Now they've got it split up. Like you'll have the carnival rides will be one weekend, and the next week there'll be another weekend that'll have
Like
the bull riding or the tractor pulls. I mean, they break it down to different weekends instead of all of it happening at once because I don't know. From what I understood, they was having a lot of issues with some of the people that were coming in up there and stuff, so they had to break it down like that.
This year, I heard that you were going to go up there and ride a bull. Is that true?
I'll be honest with you. If you'll sign up to ride a bull, I'll sign up to ride a bull, and we'll go have somebody go live. I mean, you'll get slung all over that place. But I'll do it if you.
Every time you do something crazy, I end up in the hospital. So I'm not going there.
Well, I'm pretty sure we're both going to the hospital if we go riding bulls.
Make sure you tell them that you're a beginner and you're not
Yeah, don't go up there and tell them that you're the next Lane Frost. That you're like, because I don't know.
I know a kid that did that. He said, "Nice knowing you, Dad." I told him I had experience.
David said, local politics is where we can do the most. Our votes really matter on the local level, and that is 100% true. I mean, we have to start locally to go to the state level, then we have to be in local state together to go to the national level, and then beyond. I mean, that's that's how it begins. We live in Wolf County, Senator son of Morgan County. Now have a granddaughter who will start there next year. Our son lives in Elliott County, but he plans on sending his kids to Morgan County. That's awesome. I mean, hopefully everything will work out, and those kids will be able to continue to enjoy being in Morgan County. That's the plan. If I have anything to do with it, my vote will always be to make sure the kids have the best schools possible, and the best staff and everybody around to keep everybody happy. I mean, I'm hoping that this middle school thing falls through and gets pushed later on down the road, long ways down the road, and that that's something we're not having to worry about for a while. But we'll see how that goes. We've got people actually saying they would drive all the way down here to watch me and you ride bulls. Melina said mechanical bulls are a trip. Well, I don't think I could survive on that thing either. They had one up there. The last time I went to a fair, they had a mechanical bull up there, and I watched the people get on it, and it tore them all to pieces. It was like rough, like thing, and it was like taking big whelks out of them. So I don't know. But I know the bull riding that comes over here, it's like a traveling bull, like a traveling rodeo type thing. So I guess if we're going to ride that thing, like I said, I'll do it if you'll do it. But it's a long way to this fall. He said no. He's like, every time I do something, I end up in the hospital. But
your hot wings challenge about took me out.
I'll tell you what, that hot. What do you think? You want some more of that sour candy?
No.
That sour candy didn't last about 2 seconds in there. But I don't know. What you got over here? What do we want to roll with? I mean, we've talked pretty good while, about an hour and 35 minutes, besides the intros and everything. So we've been doing a lot of stuff, local stuff. So, I mean, we'll bounce on over and go on into the main part of the show here too.
And the hits just keep on coming.
That right there is the Professional Bull Riding Association.
They
are calling Matthew to go ahead and get him signed up for this year's bull riding event. So just make sure to forget my name. So I'd like to see Melina on a mechanical bull. It'll be funny. Well, let's see what has happened. Last time I came to the fair, they had a tractor pull, and I'm definitely coming with you all riding bulls. I watched the Hot Ones. Yeah, I actually went back the other day and watched the Hot Ones challenge on YouTube, and I don't know how we survived it, honestly. I hadn't really watched it. Oh, heck, I watched it the next day after we done it again, but I hadn't watched it since, so I don't know how we survived. But what has happened? I'm trying to think what has happened since last week.
Well, the Pope died.
Yeah.
We talked about that on the last program, right. And that Donald Trump and multiple dignitaries around the world were going to his funeral.
Trying to see if I've got anything here saved. Hadn't happened.
The big news is still with the MS-13 gang member. Donald Trump went on television.
I reckon there's some footage also that come out about that showed like a live camera footage of him like abusing his wife or something.
Well,
but he's supposed to be this awesome dad, you know what I mean?
Donald Trump went on national television in an interview after his first 100 days in office and has addressed a lot of the issues. And one of the things that the media tried to say was that was fake news, that this Maryland man was not an MS-13 gang member when he has
On his knuckles.
MS-13 on his tattooed on his knuckles. They said that was fabricated. So once again, there you go. We talk about the mainstream media. The mainstream media has, and that's one of the things that I had down here. I've got some of my topics tonight were Trump's first 100 days. He's faced relentless hostile coverage, networks negativity, negative comments about Trump in the first 100 days. 92% of the mainstream media's media coverage has been negative towards Trump, and only 7.8% has been positive. So they continue, no matter what Trump does. And I'll give you an example, Mike. Donald Trump passed an initiative to appropriate $1.4 billion to rebuild every home in western North Carolina that was destroyed by Hurricane Helene.
Yeah, I got that here
And
too.
not one single mainstream media outlet has
A story on it.
done a story on it yet.
Yep.
They're not going to, because they're, as I said, I've said this from day one, they're complicit in a lot of the things that are going on in this country. They promote hate, they promote negativity, they promote division. And if you say one good thing about Trump, you got 7.8% of the media outlets saying good things about Trump, 92% saying bad things. People tend to believe the what? The bad
Right,
over
here,
the
right,
good.
you're still, go ahead. But I'm going to play this video, guys. This is for the first time in 7 months. A train is coming into Asheville, North Carolina. So the train tracks have been rebuilt. And for the first time in 7 months, this train is headed into Asheville, North Carolina. So, there you go. That's what I'm saying. That goes along with what you're talking about. Media is not going to show you that video. They don't want nobody to know that. It's like when Asheville was hit and washed pretty much off the face of the earth. They didn't care. They didn't talk about it.
They're not going to talk about it. They're going to continue to bash him. They're going to continue to negatively promote a negative picture of what he does. And the reason they're doing that is because he is a threat to the establishment.
Well,
And they don't like it.
I
They
don't
don't
know.
like
I don't
it.
know if you know it or not, but also this week, which it's been going on for a while, but I guess it's spread a lot, nice little bit. But there's a new virus out there, a new disease, and this is one of the most deadly diseases that there can possibly be. And hopefully they find a cure for it real quickly. So I'm going to do the breaking news here and bring it up. Let's find a cure, guys. Trump derangement syndrome. So, that is a real thing, guys.
There have been legislative state governments that have implemented the very thing you're talking about, Trump derangement syndrome. They are deranged with Trump because Trump is destroying the old way and going to introduce the new way. And what he's going to do is, I'm telling you, tariffs will pay for everything in America. We don't need taxation. You're eventually going to have a country whereby taxes are not imposed on citizens. Income tax is going to be alleviated. State tax is going to be alleviated. I think you'll pay a tax on all new items like cars and homes. It'll be a one-time 14% sales tax, and then at the end of the year, once you pay that, you never pay it again, and you own it. You don't own anything in this country. As much as people think you do, you don't own anything. All right, you don't own your home because of the Fifth Amendment. Fifth Amendment deals with the law of eminent domain. If they want to take your home to build a road, a school, or a construction project, they can take it in a heartbeat, no question. They have to give you just reasonable cost for that. That and reasonable cost is what they deem it. The value of your land is not always going to be exactly what you receive, because most land has sentimental value, maybe been passed down through generation to generation to generation, and it means something to you. But they're still going to give you just cause, and their just cause may not meet what you think. And then, you look at America. You don't own your car.
Mm-mm.
Why? Because you got to pay what?
I'll pay taxes and your registration every year.
If you don't pay it, you can't put it on the road. And they'll do what?
You don't pay your car payment and your taxes, they'll come and get it.
They'll confiscate it. So, Americans need to wise up that good times are ahead. It may not be exactly at the pace that some people would like, but it is coming. It is coming, and you can't stop it. The initiatives have been put in place, and good times are on the horizon.
Travis,
talking about you too, Melina.
Travis, we just talked an hour and 40 minutes, and about an hour of it was about the school system. But he says, as a concerned and invested parent in Morgan County, what should I focus on in regards to this school year? And what is the best way to see positive changes take place? Well, I would say to call your school board representative, but since you're talking to him, what we need to do really, I think, too, is we need to get on more to other people in other districts and have them call their representatives and, talk about if you have concerns or if you have likes or dislikes, let your school board officials know this stuff and, work to, you'll have to go back, Travis, and watch,
And the hits just keep
you're a busy man. But we, because we dove pretty deep into it, pretty much everything to do with the middle school and then budgets and, all that stuff. But I mean, we had parents, come on in the comments and say they were transferring their kids out of county. I mean, it's just, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that middle school situation doesn't happen. We are, what is this, May, June, July, August, 13, no, about 15 months away from the possibility of it beginning. So, we have to, I don't know. It's going to be a long 15 months, but I'm going to do everything I can to, make sure that doesn't happen. And I even, sent direct messages out to people tonight that, there's a lot of kids that I've spoken to that, are not happy about it. And they're saying they're scared, about being in school and this happening. So, I mean, it's time to listen to the kids. It's time that the school officials listen to the kids and, kind of scrap this and let's move on with it. Then with the Trump derangement syndrome, Melina said there was some today in Moorhead on the side of the street, so they must not have got their Trump vaccine, their TDS vaccines yet. But I've never seen anything like it. I mean, you was talking a minute ago. I think you was mentioning about the 14 low, and I want. For one, there's 3 different things going to happen in this video. This is Chucky Schumer. He's going to talk about Trump's approval rating for the first 100 days being at a record low. Then you're going to hear a reporter say, but I looked into your approval rating.
And it's 17%.
And it's 17%
lower.
But then I want you to hear Chuck Schumer's very, very last statement that he makes. And then you'll hear what they're instead of trying to work together and save the country, make the country better, listen to the video and you'll see what I'm talking about.
The polls this week show Trump has the lowest 100-day approval rating since they started polling 80 years ago. The lowest. Yes.
There was a poll out today that has your approval rating lower than any other congressional leader at 17%. Are you concerned that you may be a liability for your party?
Polls come and go. Our party is united. We're on our front foot. We're stepping forward and going after Trump and having real success. The polls this week.
Did you hear it? We are going after Trump. That's all they care about. That is all they care about. They don't care about saving you money. They don't care about helping you get better jobs. His approval rating is 17%.
Lower than any other congressional member, but yet he said, polls come and go.
But
Don't
yet
worry about it.
But the poll that shows Donald Trump's the worst president in history in the first 100 days, that must have been a correct poll.
Well,
Let me ask you this. I'll ask both of you this. All of you. Have you received a poll to ask what you thought about
Never
Donald
been
Trump's
asked.
100 days?
Never
no,
been
I'm
asked.
not. But I will say this. A recent Fox News poll came out about congressional Democrats' disapproval. And in 2025, the disapproval rate of the congressional Democrats is 66%. The last time it was that low was in November of 2013. It was 65%. Only 30% of Americans approve of the congressional Democrats right now and what they're doing in Washington. You're right. They have Trump derangement syndrome. Let me give you another example of how
I've
they've
never
got
received
Trump.
a poll either.
Okay,
Asking me what I think
okay.
about.
Let me give you another example of Trump derangement syndrome. During Trump's first 100 days in office, we have had much border success. And I mean much. I mean a lot. Illegal border encounters have went down 95%. That means people actually trying to come across the border, being chased down, hunted down, captured by ICE agents has went down 95%. Illegal alien getaways. Illegal aliens that have made it successfully across the border have evaded ICE agents and made it into our country, unvetted, unchecked, have went down by 99%. Arrests of terrorists is up. Now listen to this. Arrests for terrorists coming into the United States is up 655%. Catch and release is down 99.99%. We've arrested over 150,000 illegal aliens. Only 9 illegal immigrants were released into the United States during Trump's first 100 days, compared to 184,000 in the same period last year, then President Biden's term. So, what I'm going to look at you and tell you is everything that Trump ran on, promises made, are being kept. Everybody that voted for Trump voted that they are for deportations. Here's Trump deranged syndrome, though. Right now, we have judges in this country, Mike, that are issuing stays, injunctions to keep Trump from being able to
Do anything,
do
pretty
anything.
much.
Okay, let me give you an example. U.S. District Judge Jennifer Thurston just came onto the scene this past week, and she has ordered that Border Patrol cannot arrest suspected illegal aliens without a warrant. Without a warrant, they cannot. According to what the injunction stated, Border Patrol must have reasonable suspicion to detain individuals and cannot pressure them into voluntary departure without informing them of their rights and obtaining their consent to leave. So basically, we're supposed to give them due process when they enter, which we do, but are we supposed to give them due process when they leave? That's what a lot of these Democrats are advocating for. That's why you had Democratic contingencies go down to El Salvador and basically state they would not leave until this MS-13 gang member, a also woman beater, an illegal that was here without proper documents, be returned to the United States. Well, let me go further. This is Trump derangement syndrome. Governor of this great state of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, will now allow illegal immigrants to change their names in order to avoid ICE deportation.
That should be unlawful.
Well, that is unlawful. But here's what I'm going to tell you. J.B. Pritzker needs to focus on state issues. But no, he's more focused on trying to keep Trump from doing what? Deporting them. And I'm going to tell you why J.B. Pritzker needs to focus on state issues, because a report just came out that specifically stated that education in his own state, that there are 24 schools that were identified that not a single child could read at grade level. 24 schools were identified, but yet he's more worried not about the children and constituents of his own state. He's more worried about Trump derangement
Well, it's
syndrome.
just like Chuck Schumer said. You know, the polls come and go, which was stupid enough because they were talking about a poll. You know, here's what he was talking about. But at the very end of that, he said, "We're going after Trump."
Well,
and that's all they care about.
Let me go further
here.
That's
all they care about.
Chicago, Illinois Mayor Johnson says that he will arrest ICE agents if they try to deport undocumented people. You are interfering with federal business.
Yes. Which is unlawful.
Now, I'm going to go further. A very liberally minded mainstream media outlet, CNN. Would you agree? CNN is liberal?
I would think so.
Okay. They reported this week that 63% of Americans support deportations. 63%.
Which they might be lowballing, but still.
I would say they're lowballing it.
But they're still reporting.
And like I said, it's not got anything, Mike, to do with, it's not got a single thing to do with being against immigration. It's just got to do with due process, doing it the right way. What about all these people that came over here prior to the mass invasion during the Biden years that had to go through the litigation and the paperwork process and due process to gain legal right to be here? You know, they did it the right way. We're not against those people. We are standing against people that are doing it the undocumented way.
I had a friend that was studying for her citizenship test, and I helped her study for it. I mean, if you're doing it the right way, there's no reason for you not to be here, but just crossing into it would be like letting people come in and out of your house and you not checking who it is.
So basically, what you've said is 100% true. There is a such thing as Trump derangement syndrome. And the largest majority of Democrats in this country right now have Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh, my goodness.
They are so focused on trying to make sure that Donald Trump and his initiatives fail and that his presidency is the worst presidency in the history of the United States. The only thing is, they can't keep him down, and they can't promote him enough to force him to fail. He will be successful. Remember the last 4 years when he was in office. The economy was thriving. The economy is starting to resurface. Right now, tariffs have smashed records with $15.9 billion collected just in the month of April. Also, foreign and domestic investments totaling about $5 trillion under Trump. He's added 451,000 jobs for Americans in the first 100 days. What does that mean in 4 years? If he continues at this pace, the economy will be what?
It'll be booming.
It'll be booming. What he's done is he's got a lot of companies that were originally here in America that, because of NAFTA and certain incentives that were passed to deregulate excise taxes that left, they're starting to come back and reinvest in America. And what it's going to do is it's going to create jobs, good paying jobs. I think Apple just invested trillions of dollars in the American economy, and it will create jobs. So, you know, people can be deranged with Trump syndrome. They can hate the man. 90% of that is because of what I just told you. The mainstream media promotes that, and people believe everything they hear on TV.
Michael said here, he said, do you know how many Obama deported while he was in office? I had a video. I'd have to find it
I want to
of
say
Obama
I wanna,
talking
I
about
want
where
to
he
say
said he would
3
be
million.
deported.
I want to say it was 3 million.
Let me see if I can find it.
3
But I had
million.
a video.
3 million illegal aliens that he deported.
Where he even said in a speech, "If you come here, you will be deported." You know, but yet you don't hear about that on
Well,
the media.
I saw something this week that Michelle Obama was doing a podcast and with her brother Craig Robinson, and she was talking about deportations. But yet somebody come on there and said, you know, you're all in upheaval over Trump deporting these people, but yet your husband deported 3 million. All right, 4.2 million.
4.2 million.
Yeah.
But we're not hearing about that.
No, because like I said, Obama was part of the establishment. He continued the legacy of what was going on in this country, whereby American citizens are struggling to get by day in, day out, and make ends meet, whereby our politicians are making what? They start off, they only get a salary of $174 million.
But they're worth $174 million.
$174 million. We got some major issues going on. They need to look into making sure that these people can't make money. I saw something this week that someone passed what's called the Nancy Pelosi Act. It's called, and then basically what it is that legislators can't get insider information and make investments because they get what? They get filthy rich off of it.
It should be a conflict of interest.
It is a conflict of interest.
If you pass a bill and this stock's going to raise because you voted to pass a bill.
Well, Martha Stewart went to where?
Prison.
She went to prison for what? Insider trader information. Nancy Pelosi hasn't went to prison yet, but I feel she probably will in time.
You talked about Michelle Obama. Also, a video come out this week. Probably the same interview, but a different version of the interview. Just going to play it. Let everybody hear it. See if you hear something that interests you, that you've heard on this program many of times before.
And this is not what?
This is not fabricated.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said that. It's not fabricated.
I wanted to talk, Marlon, a bit about, just so proud of how you are being a role model for dealing with a child that's transgender.
Absolutely.
And that's, that warms my heart, particularly as a Black man. Would you care to share that journey of?
Well, I learned.
Now, a lot of people said she said that toward the guy that she was talking to, but she went, as a Black man, in the video. A lot of the people I've seen that, from that video said she was talking to the guy doing the interview. But when you do as a Black man like this, that's you saying also me. If I looked at Matthew and said, hey, I love watching UK basketball, and I'd say, yep, me too. That's me agreeing that I like to do it too. And that's what, they did. But,
so, are you bringing up the idea that Michelle Obama could quite possibly be a man?
Said it right there.
Wow.
Now,
there's a lot of videos floating out on the internet that claim she is.
A lot of people would say you guys are crazy that she was talking to the other guy, but why do you do this when you say a Black man? So, and I've seen some things of dangling in some videos on the Ellen DeGeneres show.
Go look up a video of Joan Rivers a couple of years ago
going up the steps.
Prior to her going in for a routine
she talks about
suit surgery that led to her death. So, I say go look it up. You don't need to listen to me. Just go look it up.
It wasn't even supposed to be surgery. It was just supposed to be a procedure, and that place wasn't even equipped to do with what they took her in and did.
Speaking of another person we've talked about briefly on the program before, let's talk about our old friend Dylan. Old Dylan says he's having a lot of trouble because it hurts really painful when he tucks in his bulge. When
Mr. Bud Light. Is that who he is?
Mr. Bud Light, yeah. Anyway, you'll be seeing the picture momentarily, but he said it's very painful when he has to.
I don't think it's made to tuck.
As it says here, her bulge But if you've got a bulge, you're not a her. So,
Not only that, it's not made to tuck.
you know, I don't know, man, what the hell there, but shame on you, Bud Light's all I can say.
And what happened to their sales?
They plummeted.
You go woke, you go broke.
That's what happened to Outback. I mean, went broke.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
We were not woke. We are not woke.
I don't know what happened. But
We already discussed that. That's so stupid.
let's see what else we got here. Hell, I can't see that far.
Who on me? Oh,
Well, we talked about the judges last week. Some of them were getting arrested. Here was actually one that I really
Hannah
liked.
Duggan.
Hannah Duggan or Dugan or something. Yeah. I really like it. Here in her judge picture over here, she's smiling. And then over here in her mugshot, she's not smiling anymore. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
But let me say something directly about her. Democrats in the House and Senate are demanding charges be dropped against Hannah Duggan, who facilitated the escape of an illegal alien from ICE custody, claiming she was simply informing the illegal of his rights. Well, I'm going to tell you this. The Wisconsin Supreme Court suspended Hannah Duggan this past week. And the Democrats once again came out with a cry in her honor and in her favor. Democrats claimed that Hannah Duggan had to spend hours in a jail cell before being arraigned. And that this is supposedly cruel and unprecedented treatment.
What about?
Yeah, what about January 6th? People that sat in detention cells for years without being arraigned, without being told or charged or given any conclusive evidence to substantiate that they committed a crime. Some of them little old ladies, I want to say one of them was about
70, 80-year-old.
Yeah.
70, 80-year-old lady sat there taking a damn picture, got put in prison. Yeah, I'm sure they were really there tearing the building apart.
So, I mean, as I say quite
Melina
frequently,
keeps asking if we're eating peanuts. I'm like, yeah, it's what you get when you don't show up.
And as I say quite frequently on this show, the hits just keep
on
coming, baby.
Michelob Ultra all the way, ain't it? Michelob Ultra, that's the low carb one, ain't it? I think that's the low carb one. I saw at IGA the other day. They now have a zero sugar keto, like a keto friendly alcohol beer. And I'm like,
wow.
People can stay get on your keto diet and drink all you want, baby. And even have some zero sugar.
Another thing that we didn't discuss that happened as we went off the air last week was Virginia Guthrie supposedly committed suicide. She was the one of the whistleblowers in the Epstein case.
That's right.
Ghislaine Maxwell and supposedly Jeffrey Epstein.
I remember that.
Trafficked her out to one Prince Andrew. But I'm also going to tell you that, and I sent you a picture of this, Mike. I don't know if you brought it up there or not, but
hell, I must not put them up there. The newer set.
Okay. She had sent out a tweet on X stating that she was not going to commit suicide. She was not a threat to commit suicide.
That's funny.
But yet she committed suicide.
Gotta get a lot of these up here.
So, Guthrie was not only trafficked to Prince Andrew, it's believed that she was also trafficked to billionaire hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin. And she also testified that she was coerced and trafficked into sexual encounters with a billionaire Tom
Homer.
No, look here, Tom Pritzker. Tom Pritzker is the cousin of Illinois Mayor J.B. Pritzker that I talked about earlier. You know, it's believed that she testified in a courtroom that she had sexual encounters with a former Israeli prime minister, as well as the former governor of this great state of New Mexico. So here you have proof and documentation that I am making it publicly known that in no way, shape, form am I suicidal. I made this known to my therapist and my GP. If something happens to me and the sake of my family, do not let this go away and help me protect them. Her father came out this past week and claimed that she had been taken out by the Mossad. It was part of a process to eliminate testimony against powerful factions in the world that were involved in the Epstein ordeal. So here you've got conclusive evidence saying she's not suicidal. She's told her therapist that. But, you know, the media also, she was hit by a bus. And the media came out and said there were no serious injuries, but yet her family basically stated.
How the hell do you get hit by a bus and not have serious?
Well, the media.
For one, how do you get hit by a bus? Period.
Well,
but I guess when you're one of the top leading people with the Jeffrey Epstein,
if you're a target,
stuff,
you probably are.
And Bobby jets can crash into here. So,
yeah.
You know, ain't no telling what's going to happen to you. What else did you send me here, man? I know there's some other things here.
I just sent you pictures. Here was Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, one basically claiming that he was going to allow illegal immigrants to change their names to avoid deportation. Yet he is the cousin of Thomas Pritzker, who was also implicated in trafficking and sexual encounters with Virginia Guthrie. So they just tell you, this goes to show you, not being mean, they're all involved in it. Swamp is bigger than people can imagine, Mike. And Donald Trump's trying to clean up the swamp.
Well, this week we also we was able to come up with a new view of what America's main export looks like.
Yeah, our main export should be that right there. That's exactly right. 11 million people. Why will they go to any extent to keep those 11 million people here? It's exactly right. It's voters. That's why. That's why they are. These federal judges are implementing injunctions against direct orders by Trump to undertake mass deportation. They'll go to any extent, letting them change their name. Basically saying that you will arrest ICE agents if they try to deport somebody. They're doing everything they can to protect those 11 million unvetted and unchecked people that came across this border, because in 2030, they will be counted in the census. And with that being said, and the hits just keep on coming.
Well, you were talking about change. And, you know, so I've got a picture here of some other changes that are evolved. I know Deborah will really like this one. The sex strike didn't work, so now they're on to Plan B. Now the people in the picture here are going to seduce your MAGA supporting husbands and break up your marriages. Watch out, ladies. So, you know, I
don't think the guy that you guys would find them appealing. That's just what I think.
So, I don't know about all that, but what's that?
Yeah.
That is this picture?
Yep.
That is Jamie Raskin. He is one of the more powerful Democrats in Washington. This week, he warned foreign governments. Now, listen to this. He warned foreign governments that if they cooperate with Donald Trump, this goes along with Trump derangement syndrome, there will be payback if Democrats return to power. His exact words were, if and when we come back to power, and we will, We are not going to look kindly upon people who facilitated authoritarianism in our country. Translation, I'm going to give it to you in translated terms. If you stand with Trump and MAGA, America first, you'll be punished later. This isn't diplomacy, it's desperation, and it violates the Logan Act, which is treason.
So you don't want people to stand for America first, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You know, America should always come first. You know, if you're any leader, I don't care if you're that guy or any guy, America should always come
But
first.
if you notice something about Raskin, and go back to that picture, he was one of the members of the panel of January 6th, on January 6th, that heard all the evidence that was presented and did everything he could to try to pin it on who? Donald Trump. That Trump caused the insurrection. No, the insurrection was on November the 3rd, 2020, when the election was what?
Rigged.
That's
We must be
exactly
having
right.
we must be having a major delay here because Melina just now commented. So I'm gonna go back over here, but you know, she said that Mark, she's not really worried about losing Mark to this individual because Mark said that at his age he's lucky it still works, and after this it finished it off. But anyway, guys, if there's any guys watching right now, or if you watch this, you know, the replay or whatever of this, and you see this, I do apologize if this lady does destroy your marriage, because you can see right here, they wanted to go on sex strikes, which I don't know who would even touch that thing, but obviously there's probably some Trump deranged individual that would think that's hot, and but if that's going to you know, stop you. What do you think? Come here just a minute. All right, guys. Real quickly, I've got a high school junior right here. Just now got here. Literally just walked in the door. What do you think about the middle school combining with the high school?
It's a terrible idea.
There you go, guys. There's your kid right there. You know, one of the current students in the school system right there. You know, nobody texted him and told him. Nobody told him to say that. You know. I'm sorry if your marriage is ruined because of that picture.
Well,
I know Matthew's getting worked out.
That-
Look at him. He ain't spoke since you showed the picture.
well,
I'm not really sure what he's doing over there.
Well, right here's what happens a lot. Hey, look, a liberal. That's all they do is cry. Well, I got kind of disturbed when I seen Dylan tucking the bulge here, trying to be a woman and tucking in the bulge. This is a book that I hope I never see. In My Daddy's Belly. I don't know if that's on newsstands everywhere today or not, but
Oh my goodness.
and this ain't no telling what you'll see. Maybe sold it Outback. I don't know.
No,
But,
we do not
you
sell
know,
that
we'll-
stuff at Outback.
No telling what you'll
We
find.
are
Those
not
totes.
woke. Despite what
A lot of those
Mikey
totes
says.
coming in over there. I don't know what we'll find, but
Well, that is true, but I go through.
that was all in Moorhead today. That's what I'm saying, dude. I mean, you do whatever you want to do with your body. You do whatever you want to do with your sexuality or whatever it is. But you know, put stuff out there like that and say that you're coming after people, you know, and stuff. Kind of just, I don't think you're going to destroy too many marriages. So no worries. What is that? That's a horse. Know what I was looking at there. That might be the most idiotic thing I've ever seen right there.
you know, we talked last week too, Mike, how the Department of Human and Health, or the Department of Health and Human Services, led by Secretary RFK Jr., was trying to improve the health and quality of life for most Americans. We talked about last week how 5 dyes that are in foods.
Travis, you'll go to the board office and tell them that you want to see the public records and the financial records and stuff, and they'll be able to point you in the direction. They're there.
But we were talking about dyes within certain foods that were deadly.
Well,
And
there's something yellow or
it's
something
like
red or something.
red dye 40 or whatever.
Fine.
Yellow 5, all these dyes were causing
Well, I found I went and had
health
a,
conditions.
I went and picked up a box of cereal off the fridge one day, and it had that yellow, whatever the yellow one is in it. And I told her, I said, "Well, here it is," and they're even saying it causes cancer and stuff. But
Well, this week Pepsi Cola announced that they are going to remove their artificial ingredients from all products by the end of the year to align and comply with RFK Jr.'s crackdown. And one of the things that I found astonishing was how much sugar do you consume? How much sugar did the average American or average citizen or person consume in 1800? Yes?
I would say it's very little in
1800. How much sugar per year did a person consume in 1800?
Extremely low.
How about 18 pounds?
Okay.
18 pounds of sugar.
She would probably
Okay.
do that in a week.
Okay. Let's go forward 100 years, 1900. How much sugar does the average person consume in a year? In 1800, it was 18 pounds
Per year.
per year. In 1900, it is 90 pounds of sugar per year.
well, these peanuts have 2 grams of sugar per fourth of cup. Me and you should eat this whole bottle. So
Okay.
we're consuming
So
some
it
sugar.
went from 18 pounds to 90 pounds in 100 years. Okay, we're going to jump from 1900 to 2009. That's approximately 109 years. What does the average person consume? How much sugar per year in 2009? Yes. It went from 18 to 90. What does the average person consume 109 years later after 1900?
Oh goodness.
120.
180 pounds of
Oh my
sugar.
gosh.
So it doubled in a little more than 100 years. So we're at 2024. What I'm going to tell you is the consumption level of sugar is went up even more. So what happens is this is one of the reasons that we have an obese society.
That's
A
right.
lot of these products,
And I'm one of them.
I'm one of them too. You know,
So,
I probably don't meet a lot of the requirements as far as you were talking about body mass index and things of that nature. But what I'm going to look at you and tell you is a lot of these products that we eat are causing problems. They've contributed to a lot of the health conditions that we have in America. So what's wrong with RFK Jr. trying to make America safer and healthier?
So they allow things in our food that makes us hungrier to where we'll eat more. And other countries do not allow some of those products in their
I'm going
foods.
to intervene there. They discovered something about the number of times you chew your food. The number of times you chew your
honestly,
food
for me, it ain't
sends messages throughout your body that you are what? That you are full. So they added additives to decrease the number of times you would what? You would chew. And what happens?
I watched that
Huh?
video just last night.
You eat more.
Yeah, my sister saw something where it said if
I
you
wa-
chew your food so many times that you'll lose weight because you get full faster and
That's
you
right.
put
You'll
on-
stop eating.
You'll stop eating.
I haven't stopped the whole 2.5 hours.
But that's you.
Peanuts. Yours is 2 hours. But
But, you know, a lot of the initiatives that we voted for, when we voted for Trump as president, are being fulfilled. Are we getting everything that we want? No. But patience is a virtue. Tom Homan announced this week that you can expect arrests of officials that are complicit in obstructing justice. We've already seen some judges arrested. One, Barack Obama was in the news this week too, Mike. I'm not sure if you understand why he was in the news. Barack.
Here's the current Doge tracker, by the way,
I've got that as well.
and where we're setting at. So we try to show this every week. I don't look like it's really updated from last week, but like we talked about off the air,
360 billion.
I think we're higher than what this
360.
shows because it says live, but I don't think this is live.
That's not live.
Because this was, I think, the same as it showed last week.
We are at $360 billion of savings with the Department of Government Efficiency. Barack Obama was in the news this week because Barack made a comment on the news that he planned to visit El Salvador on his way to the NATO summit in Costa Rica. Trump released a statement that Obama has no authority to speak on behalf of the United States, and if he does, he potentially faces charges for violating the Hatch Act, which is treason. So if he goes down to El Salvador and speaks on behalf of the United States with regard to that MS-13 gang member and illegal immigration deportations, he can be arrested. I could say that there's going to be some people arrested in the near future that are going to shock some people. But don't panic. Just be prepared. That's all I say. Patience, grasshopper. It's coming.
And since everybody loves to hear about it, if I can ever get it to work.
What's that? The video of Barack?
Right here is your proof. Here's where it says everything's happened. Here's actually some tweets. And then it went off. So at least you got to see it for just a second. I don't know what just happened. Oh, actually, I guess I clicked on the post and it took me to the post. But right here, right here it is where it actually says he has the no authority to speak on behalf. So, I don't think our fact checker's working tonight. She took a break. So
You do say, look it up. I didn't hear Matthew say that.
I didn't say it. It's okay.
All right, so I did not fail. See?
I also want to mention that there was a former Georgia Democratic House candidate that was in the news this week, Mike. His name was Carl Sprayberry. I don't know if you've heard of Carl Sprayberry or not. He publicly called for the assassination of Donald Trump in a social media post. He has thus been arrested as part of a sweeping, multi-agency child sex trafficking operation.
I did see that.
Boom. So what I'm going to tell you is all these people are dirty. Every time they do something or say something to Trump or about Trump and wish harm on him, they end up getting arrested.
This is a Facebook page. But
they end up getting arrested for the things that we talk about on this program quite frequently. Child, human sex
I did
trafficking.
see that. And like I said, let me pull you out here real quickly. For those of you that want to think that he's crazy. There's WMTV, whatever that is. There's Atlanta News First. There's WRBL.
I'm not crazy.
There's a YouTube channel talking about it. Facebook, Georgia thing.
My timeline might have been off, Mike, but I'm 100% right on it.
A lot of Atlanta news.
It's coming. Can't stop it.
Stuff here. But I mean, right here's
Trump is doing exactly what he said he would do, and that is expose the swamp for what they are.
A lot of people always complain about having links or sources, about the sources. So there's, I bring you sources up as we go through.
There was a member of Congress that was arrested this week, and he is not going down quietly. He has basically stated that there are a lot of people in Congress that have sexual encounters, crimes that they've committed that have been swept under the what? Under the rug. And that they are people that are involved in money laundering. There are people involved in insider trading. And he is not going down silently. He is going to call them all out. And I don't blame him. If he's going to go to jail, they what? They should have to go to jail right with him.
Nora got a good question here. Said, what is up with Rand Paul and Thomas Massie? Thomas Massie there a couple months ago, started going against a lot of the Trump stuff. And then more recently, Rand Paul has started siding a little bit more with the other side and going against him a little bit. So I mean, it's like I don't make a lot of sense.
Now, do you want my opinion on why?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Because I knew it was going to happen. You would request me to answer.
I requested,
Okay.
but only at the
Maybe they were playing a part early on, and that was showing approval and support for Donald Trump, and their true colors have to be reflected.
Well, Mitch
to the
McConnell.
You're exactly right. So what you're going to find
They
is
use Donald Trump to
okay,
get elected, and they
I
turn on
said
him.
it on this program. Go back and look at what Republicans signed or did not sign the certification of the election of 2020. All the others that signed it implicated themselves into treason, and they have to expose them, and they are.
That's quite disappointing.
What?
Massey and Rand Paul.
Maybe go back and see if they signed the 2020 election certification on January the 6th. See if they signed it. If they signed it, I guarantee you they're not what you think they are. They're not good people. They're part of the establishment. George Carlin said it best.
Representatives or the senators?
That would be every member of Congress.
So both have to.
Yes.
And see, here's the
And
story.
George Carlin said it best. It's one big club, and you ain't part of it. What is it?
I said, here's the story here talking about where Republicans tear into Rand Paul over breaking with Trump on tariffs. Newsweek up here. So you don't think we're making stuff up.
No, we're not making nothing up.
Here's...
It says, yes, Rand Paul voted to certify the 2020 election results.
What did I just say? What did I just say?
He initially repeated some of the false claims about vote fraud. He
What did I just say?
Voted to certify.
Every member that signed that 2020 election certification will be exposed. Did he sign it?
I'm looking up Thomas Massey right now.
I said they probably signed it.
It said Rand Paul did. Although he did dispute the results, he still basically signed it. No, Thomas Massey did not sign to certify the 2020 election results.
Was he even there then?
He did not participate in any effort to overturn the results or challenge the electoral votes submitted by the states. So he must not even...
Yeah, I ain't heard a whole lot about it. That's why I said, was he even there then? But
it says he did not participate in any effort to overturn the results.
Which...
No efforts to overturn the results. So that means he supported the election.
It just says he did not sign, but he also did not participate in any effort to overturn. He remained neutral, I guess.
Okay.
Oh, it says Massey's position. He and 6 other conservative House members released a joint statement indicating they would not object to the certification of the 2020 election results. So he didn't vote for it, but he also put out a statement he would not object to it.
Okay. So
well, he's objecting to things now, so
maybe he was complicit in it.
Maybe
he
was. Like that.
Yeah, we'll leave it at a maybe.
He didn't take a stand, so that's not.
And you got to stand for something,
or you'll fall for anything.
Well, I'm going to tell you this: that I personally was down in Frankfurt with Thomas Massey when we were doing the 2A stuff and things like that. He was not a person that I would expect him to stand for something if he believes in a certain way. So for him not to take a position at all on it would make me question where he was on it in the first place.
Well, I remember Lindsey Graham. I remember Lindsey Graham that night, that evening. When they come back in, he stood right up and basically just threw Trump under the bus and said, this is not going to happen. I don't agree with Trump on this. He should have never told those people to tear that place apart and hurt these people and all this. So I'm voting to certify. And I'm like, by God, it wasn't 2 years later. He was on news begging for Trump support to come down to South Carolina.
But this week in a congressional hearing, he did come out and say that Mr. Garcia, the Maryland man, was a member of what? MS-13 gang member. He was an MS-13 gang member. So maybe, just maybe, Lindsey is starting to see the light. Lindsey Graham.
I don't have a way to put this up here, but I'll just tell you what it is. It was just sent to me. Breaking news: Andy Beshear, Governor Democrat Kentucky, says he will consider running for president 28
Oh
per
my
Politico.
gosh.
This is the same guy who vetoed a bill to ban women from women's sports. But, I'll go ahead as far as say I don't care what bill he supported or what bill he didn't, this and that. For some reason or another, a lot of the people in the state of Kentucky love the man. I don't know why.
Not a fan.
I don't know why. But do I think Andy Beshear, I think we talked about this last week, do I think Andy Beshear has a snowball chance and where to win the presidency of the United States? I don't. I don't even think he would win the primary because I think without Louisville or Lexington, he'd not even be the governor right now. Without Louisville or Lexington, he would have never beat Matt Bevin the first term,
We
his
should
first
have known
term.
this was coming though, because they threw his name out there in the as vice president, potential vice president.
Yeah, he was one of the contenders there for a little while. And then even since then, but then he was on the road, doing campaign events for Harris and stuff. But since then, he's been continuing to stay out on the road and making TikTok videos and, being more active on social media and stuff now, trying to get more people to like him. And it's like, Lexington and Louisville, be where the majority of the votes will come. He may win the state of Kentucky. I doubt it. But I don't know. It just depends on who's sitting on the other side, but I doubt he even wins the state of Kentucky. I'll tell you how much I like him. I mean, I know I had him on here one night a couple of years ago. He was on the program here. But just across the hill from here, about 1.5 miles from here, they dedicated a bridge. There was a bridge built across the Mountain Parkway, and Andy came to that dedication for that bridge. I mean, I could have flew my drone up in the air and been looking right at him, and that's how close he was. And I never even went over there. So that tells you right there. A lot of people think that he's a godly figure because of the way that he did stuff during
he closed churches,
the COVID and everything like that, and how he
churches.
saved so many lives and stuff. But the problem that people need to remember is this is the same guy who stood on television every evening at 4:00. And the majority of those evenings said, write down license plates to these people that are attending these church services, and, we'll have them arrested, have them charged, whatever it would be, for attending church. Same guy that stood on television every evening and said, you cannot be traveling to Florida, North Carolina, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. You can't be going to none of these places because you'll die because of the virus. And the man ends up having pictures posted of him down in Florida with his family while he's on television telling people they can't. Having events at the lawn in Frankfort with him standing there with no mask on, with people right up in his face, but telling people they can't wear a mask into restaurants. And schools were closed and you can't attend church. And so, I mean, for all the things that people think that this guy's a god and this is the greatest governor in the history of Kentucky and everything, you need to remember those things, before you decide to vote for him for president. But like I said, me myself, I don't think he'll even win the nomination for the Democrat Party, but it'll be okay. I reckon he's coming to Lyon this week or this month. Melina says he'll be making a visit to Lyon this month.
I know she's so excited.
I do look forward to seeing a picture.
Melina
and him, and then there needs to be a selfie taken because he is a really good friend of the show. Actually came on here once before. He was actually here with Dr. Fauci. Many of years ago.
He's a good friend with Melina, so I know she'll be taking that picture for you.
But I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of other things he did, but I mean, that's just some of the ones that I could think of. But the church thing should be enough to throw people off. But it won't. I mean, there's just so many people that, like I said, they just think he is made of gold or something other. And I mean, you also got to remember there was a select few states. I know Florida was one of them, but there was a select few states that never closed at all during COVID. They never closed the first day. So, and then some of them that closed the first day only stayed closed a few days, and then they opened back up. Kentucky was one of them that stayed closed nearly a year. Like everything, like mainly a year. I mean, some of your other things started opening back up. In the beginning, though, it was just Aiden, actually. He ain't in here with me right now, but he brought up a point the other night. It's just kind of weird, me and him sitting there having a conversation. He brought up a point. He said, is it just me, or since COVID has everything changed? And I said, you know what? I said, I just got thinking about that. And when he said that, I said, since COVID, nothing is like it used to be. You could go to Walmart now, or you can go to these places that you used to go before COVID, but it don't feel the same as it used to. It's like sort of like when the world. I told him, I said that night, it's kind of like the world stopped turning when they shut it down, and when it started back up, it was like a hard reset, and everything started back over. So like it doesn't seem the same as what it used to be prior to the COVID lockdowns and everything. So I mean. And this is a 17-year-old boy that just randomly thought of that off the top of his head. And I'm like, yeah, I have to agree with that. Oh, man. See, even Mark loved Daddy. Melina loves Son. So, there's going to be a big family portrait after this next coming visit here.
Comments won't come in on mine unless
I'll tell you what, we'll talk about something, and then about 3 minutes later, I'll get comments about it. That's why I said, are we like that far delayed?
I have to go out and come back in order to even see.
That's why I said, I don't know if we're that far delayed or, what in the world's going on tonight, but we'll be moving on to another topic before I ever see the response to the other one. And that's with us talking about it for a little while in between. I did see where Trump posted this as a joke on social media. He did an AI thing, and he posted this on there, and the internet has went nuts. Has absolutely blew up because he posted that picture of himself. And that's just like some of the silliest stuff I've ever laid eyes on, man. I mean, the man's just having fun like everybody else. I mean, you got idiots like these people standing on, what does that even say? Milk. What does that say? Hang on here. Oh, shit. I didn't know it had sound to it. Hang on a minute. But nobody will say anything to these people, but I'm trying to see what that sound is. It's like they're standing on a corner of milk is not humane. Let me show people what we got here. These women standing here in their underwear, pretty much. And it looks like they're connected to some kind of machine or something over there. And I don't know, man. This is Matthew's America. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what.
It is Matthew's America.
This is what he voted for. So I don't know what's going on this month. But
thanks, I appreciate it. Proud to be an American.
You got anything else?
Nope, we've covered a lot, man. It's been a good day.
All right, guys. Show. So I do appreciate everybody tuning in. Like I said, if you're just now tuning in or you tuned in late and you didn't get to watch the first pretty much hour and 40 minutes, it was all local talk. Really, really long part of it was about the middle school and the current situation going on with the school and stuff there. So feel free to go back and watch that. Leave any comments or, send any direct messages or anything you want. I know Travis Haney joined us there a little bit late, and he was talking there even a moment ago. Let's see here. Was asking where he could go look or who to call to find like the public records regarding things. And like I said, you can go to the board office there. It's public record. Just tell them there. You can even, I know David, I don't know if David's still on here, but you can even go into the board office and tell them you want to see the enrollment numbers. And they'll actually give you a sheet of paper or point you where you need to look. And you'll be able to see what the current enrollment numbers are and see how they're down and, where they're fluctuated from years prior and everything like that. So you'd be able to see that, the financial records. which is what Travis has mentioned here. Um, you'll be able to see that, and it's public record. So all you got to do is go into the board office there at the desk and tell them, what it is you're looking for, and they'll be able to get it for you. You don't have to be a school official or board member or anything like that. I mean, it's public record. Florida and DeSantis recognize mRNA like Minnesota is now as a bioweapon. You know anything about that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that happening?
Yeah, Minnesota is the first state to introduce a bill that would recognize the mRNA injections as a bioweapon.
Don't they have Governor
Mr. Walls?
Yeah, they're doing great things up there with Tim Walz. He's got tampons in the boys' bathrooms, and now for some reason they're in. Looks like he's got to have. Probably ain't him. It's probably somebody else. But actually, Tim Walz has been mentioned as possible as running for president in 2028. Still the top contender as of right now is Andrea Cortez. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, is currently the front runner, which is hard to believe. But they just ran Kamala Harris, so ain't nothing surprises me. Melina,
who's the top Republican?
Top Republican? I don't know.
I think his name is Trump.
Yeah, I don't.
Trump's talking about running again.
You don't never hear anything like that unless it's something negative on TV.
I think Trump's talking about running again in 2028.
But
you're gonna say, well, how? The wording of the 25th Amendment.
What is this here?
That shows you deportations. CNN
there you go. CNN
reported 63% of Americans support the deportations of illegal, undocumented aliens.
So even CNN's starting to wake up. Which I doubt it, but that Rachel Maddow or whatever with MSNBC, I think they pretty much take the cake as the top liberals now. But I don't know. We'll see. Could be a showdown between Trump and AOC.
Let's hope.
That could be.
Shouldn't be too worried.
Well, the hard part about that is people like the Outback owner, Deborah, and all them. They're going to be proud supporters of AOC because she's a woman. And she's really, really intelligent.
Well, I am impressed with her idea to go to the sun.
I believe that SpaceX. We sent Katy Perry into the atmosphere. She come back, and now she's like an alien because she's flopping around on stage and stuff now. And
we need to let
and all this.
Go.
So, I think her and Musk are in the process right now. Of getting that fixed and getting that set up. I don't know if she's going to be attending or Katy Perry will actually go on this. Tour to the sun to get the samples, but it has to be at night. When it's a little bit cooler up there. So, but good luck with that.
I agree,
and that is true. They are actually on Trump's website. They actually have Trump 2028 hats. They're actually on the website. That was a big story with WKYT the other day, being their liberal ass that they are. They had to throw that in there that, Trump's already running the idea of running again. So it's like, it is what it is. You can't watch TV anymore. There ain't no such thing. You'll get more news right here, watching The Realist than what you will, watching anything like that. But if Matthew don't have anything else, I'll go ahead and wrap her up. Trying to think if there's anything happening between now and the next time we'll be on here. I can't think of anything besides it will be raining probably every day. Prom is next Saturday, but I think we'll be back on here before next Saturday. We always tell you we'll be back on a certain night, and then we come back the following week on a different night every week. But we'll get it figured out, and be able to go from there. We do appreciate everybody tuning in. Like I said, if you do want to catch what we talked about with the the school stuff and all the local stuff. Go back and watch the first parts of it. The first hour and a half or so of everything. The school thing took the majority of that. It was the ending part. I don't know exactly what the time period was when we actually switched over to that. I did have a one thing that I do want to mention real quick, though, that I just remembered that was sent to me to go back to the local talk, and that was a lot of people remember a couple of weeks back we talked about the youth soccer fields having a big pile of wood and stuff stacked on them and then was burnt. Just wanted, had seen something here a minute ago posted that said, the stuff, there's still stuff since been burnt, nothing's been fixed. It was quoted in the paper that it will be done, nothing's been done. Lines are still screwed up at the wellness center. Table tennis has been moved to the wellness center, and they put 7 tables in. Just sounds to me like it's been a big old mess up there, but nothing's been done on that outside court, the outside fields. That's a county-related thing. So, anybody that's got youth kids that are playing youth soccer or anything like that, call the county offices, the county judge. Get that. Let them hear that you're not happy about that, and it goes right along with school stuff. If you're not happy with this school board's decision, school system decision, I should say, to do away with this middle school thing, call your representative, call your school board representative. I mean, of course, I've talked to a blue million of you, but I'm always open. You can always call me anytime, text me, email me, whatever you need to do. Of course, you know where I stand already on it, but you need to. It's going to take more than me to make sure it don't happen. So you need to get a hold of those representatives and make sure to tell them, how you think, they should feel. Because if they really stand for the kids, they'll vote no and make sure that this don't happen. But until next week, everybody have a good, fun rest of your weekend. Hope you enjoy the Kentucky Derby and rain and mud hole that it was in. Seems like it rains every year. Maybe we'll be outside next time you see us. Probably not. I'll be raining. We'll be right back in here again. But until next time, everybody take care, stay safe, have a good night. See you.